Department of Public Utilities. No, we do. 4, yeah. Yeah. No, we only need it. We don't need it. It's only in finance. We're good, yeah. All right, Brooke, if you could read Division of Water.
Page 323, Division of Water, Commissioner Alex Margavicius. Page 324, Salaries and Wages, 2024 unaudited, $64,690,882. 2025 budgeted, $69,161,563. Page 327, total expenditures, 2024 unaudited, $337,168,988. 2025 budgeted, $392,433,245. And page 332, number of employees, December 2024, 887. Budgeted 2025, 1,224, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Director, can you start with the unencumbered cash for Department of the Division of Water?
Yes, Chairman. So unencumbered cash, I would ask CFO Troy to briefly explain where we are.
To the Chairman, the unencumbered cash for Division of Water at the end of 2024 is about $170 million. This is slightly higher than what our target is, and with council's approval, we have the 5-year rates approved for 2025 through 2029. By the end of 2029, the target is to have that number at about $160 million. The way it's going to go down is through capital improvements over those 5 years.
All right, thank you. And then on page 324, Director, we got big increase in student trainees and separation payments.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So under the Division of Water,
Is that the CAS?
yes, so we are in the early conversations of initiating another apprenticeship program through our collective bargaining agreements. So we have budgeted additional headcount for student, what are we calling them? Student trainees?
Student assistants.
Student assistants. Don't really know quite yet if it's going to come off the ground in 2025, but we're looking at customer account services, which, again, we have apprenticeship programs at the Division of Water already in pipe repair, water pollution control at sewer service workers, and CPP for the line workers. We're looking at, on the customer side, either at customer account services call center, those kind of customer-facing positions, primarily with one collective bargaining agreement, to start the conversation of possibly exploring the opportunity to do that. As the city and council and everybody's embracing we need opportunities for these young Cleveland residents, right? So we thought 2025 would be a good year to at least put the placeholder in the budget. We moved the 6 from water to Public Utilities Administration, as we talked about this morning. So that would be specific to the additional student trainees. As to separation payments, the Division of Water, I believe, was 67 employees with 30 years or greater in service. So again, we're not allowed to ask or demand when somebody would separate from the division. However, we need to have the budget capacity to accommodate for that separation in terms of the benefit time and so on.
So that 880,000, that you guys budget for that, for if all 67 people were to retire, that's what we would owe them out in benefits and everything else, correct?
That we don't really, we use historical numbers, we use the potential to, or the years of service. It's a moving target, as finance can attest to, but we do the best we can with the information that we have.
All right, and then on page 325, under contractual service, professional services, is it an increase? Advertising and public notice is up. Other contractual, and then the credit card processing fee. If you could break that down.
So I will let the CFO talk to the processing fee. So professional services, as outlined on 325, are those historical programs, affordability through CHN, conservation through CHN, our youth programming, environmental services, training, but a big part of the increase from unaudited 24 to budget 25 is a staff augmentation in the Division of Water for our lead service line replacement work. Not necessarily in terms of the contractor's labor side, but the inspection and processing and managing the communications and informing all of our customers as where the program's going. We've talked about it a lot at the table, the lead and copper rule amendments from late 2024 with additional mandates on public water systems to get the lead out within certain timeframes. We do utilize all of the federal dollars that we can through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and we are aggressively pursuing those dollars again this year. But our staff, it's a hard decision to make. Do we hire 30 more staff when funding is only identified for the next 2 years through BIL, right? Then what do we do with all of those additional staff? The dollars that we're using for the staff aug are part of the grant money, which is 53% forgivable, 47% payback. So we thought it would be a good time to augment existing staff, to focus on lead service lines and utilize the bipartisan infrastructure law dollars, which is directly reflected under professional services on page 325.
All right, and then if we're going to be using an additional 10 million for the lead work that needs to be done by the Fed stuff, what are we doing to assure that the companies that we're hiring are going to do the job the correct way? And what I refer to, if I could just take a personal moment, is Brookside Boulevard, right? When we did Brookside Boulevard for the lead, when it was all replaced, but the street was left an absolute disaster. I mean, and it's no fault to the workers of the Division of Water, but we need to make sure that the contractors that we're hiring to do this work don't repeat what they did on Brookside anywhere else in the city.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And Brookside, so council's aware, when we do have project streets identified, and I believe Brookside was a sewer project that is just wrapping up, hopefully, or soon to wrap up. So they come in and we will do any identified lead service lines before we do the other improvement, whether it be water main, sewer, whether MOCAP, a council identified street. So that the lag in between those contractors is something that we have focused on, and I think Baltic in Council Member Spencer's ward was a kind of a good way that we should do it, where we had the joint meetings at the council members' request. They fully identified that these are two totally distinct programs, but significant in their own right, that will disrupt that street, and what our ultimate effort was to get the lead out and then make the necessary infrastructure improvements. It's a lot of work. Brookside, certainly we learned a lot from it. By way of the Commissioner, Margavicius is intimately involved in every single street, his staff, the engineering staff, identifying if it's us or MOCAP or anybody else. We know that the residents of that street are being impacted. The lead shouldn't impact them to the level of complete water main or sewer main, right? Or a complete street rebuild by MOCAP. So communication is key. We've learned a lot over these last 2 years. We'll continue to learn, and hopefully, with your cooperation and council support, we will do better.
Well, I took a nice hit for the way that street was, and I don't want to see any other council member have to go through what I went through on Brookside. So I'm hoping that these contractors, are we're choosing the right contractors for the work. The advertising and public notice,
Mr. Chairman, just on that point,
Councilman Polensek.
I it's the same problem I hold, but I think there comes a point, and I say this just briefly, that if these contractors are not performing, they should not get another contract. I mean, I'm ahead of them, so I just leave it at that.
All right. Advertising and public notice, there's an EPA requirement.
Yes, so on page 325, the increase in the 2025 budget is directly related to the mandated EPA notices that we send out. Any STEM events that we do is under this line item. by way of public notice, and then some of the sponsorships we do and any communications campaigns that we do at the Division of Water are outlined under that line item.
And then other contractual, the increase?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So the other contractual is those historical expenses under the Division of Water with our lift gates, hazmat disposal, digitization and scanning services, as I talked about earlier, under DPU admin. We also have excitedly, 100-year anniversary of the Baldwin Water Treatment Plant this year. So we are planning on doing some big events. The open house that council has always supported throughout the years is at Baldwin this year, and then in September will be the 100th anniversary of. And with that, the American Association of Civil Engineers has designated it Heritage Site, which is significant. So will be a lot of programming. So some of the increases under the other contractual are associated with some really unique and special events that we have planned at Baldwin.
Is Baldwin deemed historic in the city? Is it a historic building yet?
I believe it is.
I believe, Chairman, I believe that it is, but we can
All
confirm.
right, I'm just wondering. All right, and then CFO Troy, if you could do the breakdown of the credit card, who do we process for? How those fees? And if you could just break that down for us.
So the Division of Public Utilities is part of the citywide contract for all of our credit card processing fees. The interest rate is about 1.6% over the past 2 years, and our customers actually are about 50% of our customers pay by credit card. So it is significant of what we are looking at, and we do review stuff on a regular basis. At this point in time, I believe the company or the bank is, I apologize, Chairman, but they are under review in the future, in 2025. I believe they're supposed to be looked at again.
All right, how many DPU in general? How many accounts do we send out? How many do we bill for? Because we do more than just water, correct?
Every month, our water is about 440,000 accounts. Our CPP is about 70,000 accounts, and our outside entities are an additional little less than 300,000 accounts.
And then who is it that is an outside entity? We have the sewer.
That receives a different bill would be NERSD,
Okay.
Some of the municipalities with their waste.
but they're part of our water.
Oh, right.
Okay.
The same bill.
Yeah.
So the suburbs come from,
So any of the suburbs that have billing through the Division of Water is actually on their water bill. NERSD bill is the only one that is completely separate from
all right,
from
so
everybody else.
just to get things, Cleveland Water bills your NEORSD bill, and do we also collect it?
Yes.
So for the regional sewer district, and this is an agreement between the city and the county, the Division of Water sends the bills out for NEORSD. We collect the money, then we take up our fee, and then we send the money over to NEORSD, correct?
Correct, every month.
Okay. Also on 325, Director, we've had this discussion a number of times, but the cost of chemicals
Yes.
keep
so-
going up and up.
And with council support, I believe it was in 2022 when we had to get an emergency increase in our chemicals coming out. During the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, chemicals were harder to get and much more expensive. We have seen by way of the contracts. So during that time, we were doing 6-month contracts for chemicals because that's all the vendors could assure us a price for. We are back to the 2-year, so that's a really good sign. Unfortunately, it's still really expensive, so we haven't seen the commensurate decline in the costs, but we are budgeting almost $17 million this year for chemicals for the Division of Water.
And that's more than double since 2022, so.
That's correct.
On page 326, if you can go maintenance contracts, has a significant increase by almost 300,000.
So we do anticipate in 2025, Chairman, additional maintenance, especially and specifically to our water plants. The water plant upgrades, a lot of the, or some of the control panels at the 4 water treatment plants are showing some early signs of deterioration or approaching their useful life. So we are budgeting for equipment control panel upgrades at the plants. And Baldwin is a historic site.
All right, and then under maintenance, still, we're looking at a $10 million increase in the utility systems?
That's
for the
correct. So the
maintenance?
maintenance utility systems, Chairman, to the committee, are predominantly our CA, our contract assistance contracts, like currently when we're in times of an extraordinary amount of water main breaks, we utilize contractors to support our existing crews. The numbers fluctuate in 2020, and also any large, very complex jobs that have to be performed. We would assign a contract assistance contract under this line item, and then also some of our all of our hydrant repairs, the tree lawn restoration system wide. So we do use contractors to go back and refurbish the damage that is caused through right now when we're out there replacing or repairing main breaks. All of those would be in that. The anticipated increase is just to budget for a winter like this, right? This is an unprecedented winter, and the impact on our infrastructure. You've all seen it. You've all witnessed it. You've all called us. I mean, it's crazy what we're dealing with right now, and our crews are working really hard, and our contractors are busting their butts. But we're budgeting for this exact event, and you throw a significant infrastructure issue on top of it. We need the budget flexibility to accommodate and respond. Pipe repair, like I said, our staff, and I should have started and start every division that we talk about by thanking our staff, right? We can't do any of this without the men and women of the division doing the hard work in 14-degree weather, in water or sewer or up a pole at CPP. So I should always thank our employees first. But this is something that we try not to utilize unless we have to, and we have had to this year, especially because of what we're dealing with from a weather standpoint.
All right, on page 327, interfund subsidies, there's 12 million, nothing in 22, nothing in 23, 12 million in 24, nothing in 25. So CFO.
Chairman, the council approved the Division of Water for issuing new debt and refunding of old debt in 23 and 24. In 24, we issued new debt. In addition to that, it was identified that there was some older debt that we could defease, which means that we could pay off that debt with new debt, but we had to put the money aside in the first place. So that $12.3 million is the money we had to put aside for that, and then we received that funding through the new bonds in the year. So
You can tell them defeasance.
it was defeased.
It was defeased, Chairman.
Okay. All right, and then if you could go over, I know we do this every year because the book looks like this every year, the capital outlay. So 49 million in 2024. We don't see anything budgeted for 22, 23, 24, but at the bottom line, we see 78 million, 75, 49, and now 60 million. So can you just go over how you guys put in the book the capital outlay?
Councilman, I would be remiss to say, the reason why it was 49 million in 2024 for capital is because we actually moved. It was originally about $60 million, and that's what was used for the transfer to other subclasses.
The defeasance.
The defeasance. That is his new favorite word. So the way the system is, the way that our accounting system works, we have to move money into the transfer to capital projects. That's why you only see the one line on the prior years. But we definitely can provide you the detail of the infrastructure, professional services, all those lines. We can provide you what was put into them over those years if you so desire.
If we could get that that information. But
Just for 24 unaudited and budget 25, Chairman?
can you do 22 and 23 as well?
Yes.
And I know we talk about this every year because for some reason, this is the way you guys do your capital outlay. But either way, this 60 million is for things like,
Infrastructure in the ground, any plant improvements that need to happen, any building betterments for our pump stations, if there's anything at 1201 Lakeside, which is the Division of Water's headquarters, all of those types of things are included in this.
so for example, East Ninth, when East Ninth collapsed over there, would that money come out of this or would that be under
No.
other contractual?
Chairman, that actually came out of the contractual assistance that the director
Okay.
had spoke of.
Right.
It has not yet, but it will come out of the budgeted line item for maintenance utility systems on the previous page.
Okay. So capital is just what we think it is, right? It's just upgrading our systems, it's upgrading our plants.
Yes, annually we do
Roofs.
like water main
Roofs,
renewals.
right.
That comes out of the capital.
Okay. And then last thing for me, miscellaneous under revenues. We go from 15,000 to 600,000.
Councilman, from time to time, we get surprises in revenues for, such as the workers' comp refunds or anything like that, so we put a placeholder in there. You can see the last couple years, it has not been anything significant, but we always have high hopes.
Okay.
Aspirational?
All right, that's the questions I have. Open it up to the floor. Councilwoman Jenny Spencer. Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to, great questions, Mr. Chair. You do such a good job covering what we need to talk about. I want to go back briefly to chemicals on page 325, that 16.6 million, noting that how quickly those prices have gone up. I want to ask about that again because I seem to recall that many of these chemicals have to be imported from overseas. There's something about these chemicals that not only is the pricing going up, but sourcing is a challenge. And I wanted to take a moment to just clarify that was something that struck me as notable in a prior committee hearing through the chair.
The chairman of the council member, yes. So there were, and the transporting of the chemicals and its delivery has been affected by things like conflict, world conflict, by natural disasters, strikes. So all of those have impact on the world market of some of the chemicals, but we've gotten a lot better. We've learned a lot from those, and there's other sources that we try to be flexible enough to have contractual obligations with to make sure that we have the available resources. Maggie Rogers, our manager of plant operations, said that industry-wide, it's said to budget for 25% increases in chemicals, just as a supply-demand analysis. But yes, we have come to council in the past, but there isn't currently anything that's driving up cost. It's currently that we are budgeting for in 2025 is just the cost of doing business. We're hoping to have none of those bad things happen, which would further impact the cost.
And then through the chair, did I understand correctly that this does anticipate a little bit of a cushion, like we anticipate buying a bit more than we need to have some kind of overage available, or?
Chairman of the council member, yes, and we always try to. The unique part about chemicals is its storage and handling is also heavily mandated by the EPA, so there's costs associated with that. And the proper storage of some chemicals as opposed to other chemicals, you have to have the appropriate everything, right? So we learn a lot every time. We have an unbelievable staff. Through Maggie and the commissioner at the water treatment plants to make sure that our customers can count on the highest quality product that is capable of being delivered. But it's a lot of work and a lot of money.
Right. So I'll just conclude with, I actually had a crazy thought of given some of the volatility, given some of the uncertainty globally, is there utility in stockpiling, if you will, even more, right? Not just 1.25 years worth, but just I'm putting it out there as a thought. I think I would venture that if we go down the rabbit hole, there's probably a lot of questions about storage and capacity. I mean, I know it's not that easy, but It's
I
just an
know
interesting question.
Makes me think of a conversation that I would encourage you to have with the commissioner about during the pandemic, when everybody got a swimming pool. And, right, everybody was at home and their kids were at home, and so I think I think you would enjoy the conversation with the commissioner. I certainly don't know enough about it to entertain you or anyone else.
Good. Well, thank you to everyone who is thinking about this, working
Yes.
on it, and improving that process every time, because chemical is what makes our water safe to drink, among many other things, but that is certainly an essential component. And then, Mr. Chair, I'll just conclude with really wanting to zoom out. I'm on page 327, looking at total expenditures compared to total revenues. We have a gap. Total revenues, 361 million. Total expenditures, 392 million. How do we handle that in our city budget, that delta between revenue and expenditures? Through the chair.
Director or CFO?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, as you know, the Division of Water is an enterprise fund, so any overages or underages keep going back to our total cash position. So this budget is created based on the idea of worst-case scenario of a winter, which we are currently experiencing. So we want to make sure we always have that funding available to our operations staff to be able to do that work. If, as you can see in 2024, I would say that the weather was actually pretty nice to us. You can see that we actually made, or the division by budget basis actually did well in that respect. So it's a give and take over the years. We review this we review this annually, but also very closely during our 5-year plan to make sure everything is going the way we want to or we need to address it.
So then, through the chair, any delta is covered by cash?
Correct.
Okay.
But I think
Cash on hand, through the chair.
through the chairman and the council member, and an important point, and I know there's been a lot of conversation about budget at 24. So our budget 24 for the Division of Water was 384 million. Our
Thank you.
unaudited 2024 expenses were 337, right? So that we budget for the worst. We hope to come in under. In the event of any plus or minus, the unencumbered cash is what a enterprise fund has as rainy day, right? Any major disaster, any significant budget impact is handled by that unencumbered cash that the chairman asked about earlier, but it's a fair point. We don't want to spend all that.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Just on one of her points, the chemicals that we get, in light of what's happening over at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, do we get a lot of them chemicals from within the U.S.?
Yes.
Chairman, yes,
All right.
for sure.
So whatever tariffs may be put on wherever, that wouldn't affect us getting at least being able to transport or the cost of our chemicals, correct?
I mean, it's something all of us are paying very close attention
Right.
to, but currently it has zero impact on our budget.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Polensek.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll follow up on that, your line of questioning to my honorable colleagues as well. I mean, I would hope that in light, again, what we're all seeing and going to be experiencing, that we should make every effort possible to make sure that we can source everything we can domestically. That's become very clear to me over this last month. We should do everything we can, that we are not dependent upon any outside offshore source, whether it be for any of our departments and divisions, wherever we can. I want to go to page 327. And again, based on the chairman's comments, why would you think that we would not ask questions about 2022, 2023, and 2024 unaudited? Why would you leave that all blank?
Chairman, to the council member, on the capital outlay?
Yes.
So it's always been like that. To the previous conversation, it's all wounded. It's all added up to the transfer to water capital projects, but we outline it every year, historically in the pre-budget. But again, we did in the operational hearing in November, gave you the capital outlay for 2022 through 2024. And we will always give you the capital outlay. There's nothing hidden. It's an accounting principle that's always been in the book.
But that's why I
To my
thought, 'cause
knowledge.
it came up during that it would be in here. because it was an issue raised by the chairperson and other members. So again, I want to just say this again, going forward, I would hope that, because someone, see, we're sitting here looking at this, but if someone who wasn't at this table looking at this, or someone watching this from home, they'd say, wait a minute, what happened? What happened in those 3 years? You didn't spend any money, but yet there was a grand total at the end, transfer to water capital projects. So again, I'm gonna raise it again, as the chairman has, and I'll leave it at that point. Let's drop down to revenues. We see charges for service increase, and I'm assuming that has to do also as well with the rate increase. But I'm going to go back to my initial questions that I raised with Ms. Troy. Interest earnings and investment income. I would think, and I would have thought based on interest rates, that there would be an increase. So now there's a decrease here of approximately 3 million. I want to ask myself, I'm asking, where do we invest in our money? St. Clair Savings and Loan? Tell me. Someone, please tell me this. Where are we putting our money? I mean, because I just heard before, that because we were not going to move money out of the 3 major divisions, so I added up those two from fiscal
Mr. Chairman.
and from the other division. That was $489,000 right there. That should have been in the budget. So here we are. We're down 3 million here.
What page, Mr. Chairman?
I'm on 327. So why are we're collecting more money, we're depositing more money in the banks, at least we should be, and yet our interest income is 3 million lower. Explain that one to me,
Yeah,
somebody.
so through the chair to the councilman, so my understanding is these investments are majority treasuries, safe investments, fixed income, and interest rates have actually dropped recently. If you go look at, an easy example is to look at mortgage rates. They used to be up above 7% and have dropped down below 7%.
Okay.
So it really is market driven, the actual returns and interest that we earn, and rates have generally come down.
But interest rates for a good part of last year, and I know because I said earlier, I've been looking at between 4 and 5% just on a CD, a deposit of a certificate of deposit. So I would have thought under earned income, investment income, we saw an increase from 2023 to 2024. Now it's estimated cost dropped in 3 million. I haven't even gotten to CPP yet, and water pollution control. Guys, where are we putting our money?
To the chair, the councilman, not only did rates go down, there's anticipated they're going to go down again. Also, water is spending down their cash balance. As the councilman just noted, there's a $30 million gap in the budget between those two. So between the rate cuts, the interest rate reductions, as well as potentially spending down their cash, their estimate this year is less than last year.
Okay, but let me say, I'm not going to belabor the point. I think you know where I'm coming from. You're estimating $340 million charges for service. The chairman asked, right out of the gate, what's your estimated cash balance? $170 million. I'm assuming it's not in Keene's drawer over at utilities, the $170 million. It's in Troy's. Okay? It's got, or in Troy's drawer, maybe it's in her drawer, okay? But it's got to be somewhere. So you're collecting $340 million plus $170 cash balance, estimated cash balance. I mean, and our interest income is down $3 million? Now,
Chairman to the council member, and I'm no numbers guy at all, but 19.2 seems to be the budget hold that we put in it. That was the 2024 interest income, and it came in at 22.7. So they did a great job in 2024 on their interest income. But to Mr. Gentile's point, we're budgeting for the worst. We're budgeting to tap into unencumbered $31 million if we have to. So that would obviously impact the interest income as reflected on page 327. these are investments, and these are our customers' dollars that we have to be very prudent with, and we try to be as conservative as we can to deliver the highest quality service.
I understand it, but you're investing, I'm assuming, in the local banks. You're not investing in Joe
That's not-
Fabic
I'm
Saving
not.
and Loan. Okay,
That's right.
you're investing in the local banks here. So, I mean, I'm just saying, with the amount of money we deposit, the city of Cleveland, I gotta believe, who cuts the deal? Tell me something, Mr. Director of Finance and Mr. Gentile. Who negotiates where we deposit our money? Do we negotiate the interest rate?
Through the chair of the council person, under our city ordinances, we're very limited under Ohio state law. So
I understand that.
It's pretty much Ohio federal treasuries, federal agencies. We have to keep a good portion liquid, so that goes to like overnight market money
Okay.
market funds.
Okay.
So that's primarily where this is. So all this money is deposited, in the depositors, and/or
Okay.
we buy those investments through the feds.
Okay. I'm glad you ain't investing my money. Okay, so we'll go from there.
But
So,
on that point,
Yeah.
Councilman Palincic, this could probably be the low number, right? I mean, you're just trying to project, and when you're trying to project interest rates and all that other stuff, this could come back at 23 or 24.
Okay.
Like it did last year.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to leave the point, but you know where I'm getting at. Okay, you know where I'm at.
We got
Because we heard with the two other divisions, that's why you didn't move the money over. And then, so I would have thought there would be a spike here in investment
There
interest.
was $3 million, 3.7, 4 million in '24.
In 24, but now you're $3 million for estimate
Again,
for
it's
2025.
through the chairman of the council member,
Okay.
that's the
Okay,
budget, right?
okay. Well,
Well,
we'll be watching, okay? And get it out of St. Clair Savings and Loan, will you? Put it in a regular bank, okay? Thank you. Okay?
thank you, Councilman.
Freaking heck.
Councilman Joe Jones.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, again, my colleague is hitting it on all cylinders down there, Mike Palincic, as relates to these numbers. And I just want clarification. So this division here, is this all part of the fiscal, we went through the fiscal administrative side? Do they also prepare what we see here right now, Mr. Chairman, in this budget book, or is there someone from the Division of Water who actually put these numbers together? In other words, who put the budget here together for the Division of Water? Who wrote all these numbers out?
Chairman of the council member, the CFO through the Division of Fiscal Control.
And who is that, Mr. Chairman?
Troy.
Troy? That's you, distinguished lady?
It is.
Thank you. So if maybe you can help me here, because it just, to me, it seems mind-boggling, these numbers and the projections that you have here for the Division of Water. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. How is it that in 2024, and you compare and contrast 2024 budget numbers to 2025 budget numbers, they're just absolutely identical in a number of categories. And how could that be, given the fact that, these numbers should not be year in to year out the same amounts of money? For an example, if I move over here to the top of where it says capital outlay, 34,000, and that would be for infrastructure. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman, to the CFO, Mrs. Troy?
Chairman of the council member, that's 34 million?
That's correct.
Correct.
So what does that is money set aside for all infrastructure projects for
Chairman
this year?
Chairman of the council member, that's correct.
Okay. And last year, in the unaudited, do we know how much we spent for 2024 for the infrastructure program?
Specific to the infrastructure, Chairman of the council member, we're going to get you, but in totality, it was the 49,110,996 plus the 12,393,946, as reflected on page 327.
Okay. And the reason why I asked that question, because we have identical numbers for infrastructure outlay that was set. And so you're saying the 34 million that was allocated or budgeted for last year, we went over that with the tune of $49 million. Or is that what happened there?
No, through the chairman of the council members, specific to capital outlay, that's the total for all of those line items that we're going to get you the actual.
So it's different it's more than just the 34 million.
Correct.
So it is talking about everything in here in terms of infrastructure, computer, software, hardware, all that. Is that correct?
Chairman of the council member, that's correct.
All right, so last year we budgeted $1 million for professional services, $800,000 for building betterments existing, and we also budgeted 2.7. These numbers that we have here in the book, with the exception of computer hardware, which is a little bit under from what you allocated last year at 5.2 million. My question is, we're between this year and last year, we're at 12 million plus on computer hardware. So we did computer hardware. We invested 6 million last year in it, or close to 7 million.
Councilman, can you tell us what page you're on?
I'm looking at page 327. And when we look at the budgeted numbers for 2024, Mr. Chairman, it just seems really weird to me that these numbers are absolutely identical all the way down on this line item, with the exception of the computers and motorized equipment,
Through the
and then
chairman.
other equipment. These numbers are absolutely, completely identical. So it just seems that they just carbon copied from last year and pasted it over to this year's book. And I don't see how these numbers can be so exact like this. How did that happen?
Chairman to the council member, so in the capital outlay, you have to identify a legal capital investment, right? It has to be capitalized. It has to be, it's not from your operating budget, it is your capital budget. So we put numbers, specific numbers in the groups, and then we identify the projects to spend it on, which we're going to get, council has already asked for the detail. We gave it in the operational hearing for 24, 23, 22. We're going to do that again in response to the earlier questions. So you'll have the detail for the capital outlay, but from budget 25, we identify a number and put it in a category of capital. And those are the legal categories of capital expenses, as opposed to everything else that is the operational expense.
Right. So how do we have the, just out of curiosity, how do we have the same identical numbers from one year to the next year on all of these line items? And
so that's
wouldn't it, it just doesn't make sense to me that if we spent 34 million in infrastructure and then you're allocating another 34 million, and then it's just the same with professional services on down. Mr. Chairman, I would think that we would have different numbers from one year to the next year. And is this just something we're putting into place as holding money, or are we just allocating
always,
that
every
money?
budget in the
Director?
history of, yes, through the chairman of the councilman, that's correct.
So technically speaking, we probably won't even spend this money.
Chairman of the councilman, but that's possible in a budget.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, and that gives me to this perspective of what we've been sitting here at the table always talking about, accounting and accountability. If we're just holding this money, is this a part of our cash reserves, or is this in addition to the 170 million cash value that we already have? Is it that 170 million is commingled into these categories which we will not spend, which we haven't spent?
Chairman to the council members, so as was earlier, if the budgeted 2025, $392 million in expenses, and the budgeted income is $361 million, then the $31 million difference would come from the unencumbered cash balance. Does that answer your question?
It's sort of kinda, and
Okay.
it'd be something that we would have to really, because this just doesn't make sense to me. Just having these same exact figures. I run a business and my numbers are totally different from year to year. And some issues are just routine. But this seems like right here, I don't know it's hard for me to understand why we'll be continue to spend this kind of money on computers each year in and year out. and
Happy to
same
get you
way
the
all way
details,
down.
Councilman.
So-
Happy to get you the spreadsheets.
Yeah, and I'm not, it just, if you look at, Mr. Chairman, to the director, the budget for 2024, and then you look at what's budgeted for this year, 2025, they're almost identical. So I
That's
wanted
the
to bring
budget.
that out, Mr. Chairman. And then I want to jump down here to our economic stability in the Division of Water. So how do we stand up in terms of reserves, resources, that kind of thing? Where would that be to show? I know we have revenues here that show us what we brought in, but we're spending more. And the difference is, I would presume, Mr. Chairman, if my math is right, about 30, a little bit, over 34 million, maybe 34.4.
Chairman to the council member, that's what we're budgeting for, yes.
Okay. And then that would be, and then part of that money would not be bonded, but would come out of our cash reserve value?
Chairman to the council member, that's correct.
And then, just to make sure I'm on the same page, what is that cash value currently? Just to make sure I'm correct.
Unencumbered cash balance, as earlier testified, and it is reflected on page 32.
Is it 170 million?
32 of your budget. Mm-hmm. It is currently $170 million.
170 million? Is there any other assets that, if we look at the whole totality of the Division of Water, its value, if we had to put a value there?
I want to remind to please run things through the chair. That's what Robert Rules of
Mr.
Order
Chairman, to
says.
the director?
Thank you.
I would
Director?
guess, Chairman to the council member, I would guess it would be much bigger than that, yes.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, has that been made a part of our discussion earlier when we were talking about the various different departments and the information that has been given? Does it give us a value or evaluation of our various different utilities?
Chairman to the council member, you mean like a water plant?
No.
How much is a water
No,
plant worth?
no, Mr. Chairman, for clarification to the director, we have a number of departments, right? So in order to make decisions sitting here at the table as an elected official, it'd be important, and I've asked for this information, I'm not sure if you've already given this information, is the value of your various different utilities. So that means how much cash resources you have. It would also talk about your value as an asset. So what is the value of the Division of Water in the city of Cleveland?
So through the
And
chairman
that's
to
just
the
a green paper you can
Through the
get
chairman to
for.
the councilman, our asset value is in our annual financial statements that are provided to council after the audit is completed.
Where can that be found?
In addition to the city website, it is also available on the Auditor State's website.
Can you make that available to me?
We definitely
distinguished lady?
can pass that along to the chairman.
Thank you, because I have never seen it. I haven't seen it in our finance books. And I've asked at times in years past, the future of our organizations, their health of our various different divisions. It's important to kind of like get that snapshot, Mr. Chairman, to the director to have that idea of where we are. I know that we have some challenges in the past with some of our utilities, but it would be nice, Mr. Chairman, to the director to kind of have a good snapshot of the health of our utilities like the water, sewer, as well as Cleveland Public Power.
We will happily to provide.
And Mr. Chairman, if Ms. Gentile would like to add.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, I just wanted to point out on page 32, for each of the entities, there's an unencumbered cash balance.
Thank you.
On a certificate. So it's on page 32. It breaks it down from water, water pollution, Cleveland Public Power, general fund, and et cetera. Page 32.
Anything else, Councilman?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Division of Water?
I'm looking here on 32.
Brooke, if you could please read in water pollution control.
Page 333, Water Pollution Control, Interim Commissioner Ryan Lopez. Page 334, Salaries and Wages, 2024 unaudited, $8,426,333. 2025 budgeted, $9,414,752. Page 336, total expenditures, 2024 unaudited, $37,248,198. 2025 budgeted, 43,789,674. Page 339, number of employees December 2024, 129. Budgeted 2025, 169. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Director, on page 335, professional services, there's an increase. Can you go over the professional services?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Under contractual services, 335, the first line item is professional services, which are those historic opportunities with affordability through CHN on WPC. Our OOPS markings, when we dig, we have to mark the road to identify other utilities. That's through professional services. Pump station maintenance, a number of pump stations for the Division of Water Pollution Control, landscaping, and then our youth programming, which we're still budgeting for and we're hoping to get back off the ground in 2025.
Director, before you go any further, I'm sorry. Can you give us the unencumbered cash for WPC? I'm sorry.
Chairman, the unencumbered cash at the end of 2024 is $23.2 million. By the end of 2029, according to our 5-year plans, that number should be about $22 million. So we are saying we're going to try to keep that as close as possible through these 5 years.
All right, thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Director.
No, that was, those are the professional services outlined under, on page 335.
And the other contractual?
Other contractual, also under, that's our our hazmat, hazardous materials and debris removal. We budget high in the event of, we don't know what's hazardous until we dig a hole, so we budget high.
And then, why did we, under materials and supplies, safety equipment, it's gone down significant since 2023?
Thank you.
Chairman.
I think I know.
Okay.
Go ahead, Troy.
Chairman, in 2023, the division purchased what they consider boxes so that the sewer service workers that are in the holes have metal boxes that protect them from any cave-ins or anything like that. We bought a significant amount of them in 2023, and now it's a maintenance of buying 1 or 2 pieces as necessary.
So we
So that's
went big in 2023, and
Correct.
now we're just, okay.
But also in '24 was hot, inclement weather. We did this heat stress equipment for our crews, so when they are out, we have tools that safety will bring them to stay cool while they're working. And then portable gas detectors, we bought a number of them in 2024 that we don't anticipate buying in '25.
All right.
So we are more safe. The line item is just less.
And then on page 335, under maintenance, the utility systems, the increase there?
Yes, so Chairman, one increase is our SCADA maintenance at the Division of Water Pollution Control, but the other things are always the materials to do the job that they do well at the Division of Water Pollution Control. So that's the castings, clay pipes, construction equipment, and also any associated labor that we need to outsource or request to get the job done. We're anticipating increases in all of those.
All right, and then I'll leave the debt services questions to Councilman Polensek, since that's his topic. That's all I have. Councilwoman Jenny Spencer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask under staffing levels, page 339, are any of the apprenticeship programs reflected in staffing levels through the chair?
Chairman, to the council member, so the students, what page? I don't have the new page.
I do not.
I think it's the
Council-
new 339, 338. No, I apologize.
The new 339. Councilwoman, if you look at the last page of the
Whatever the
head
last
count,
page is.
you can see student assistants. There should be 4 total students,
Budget 25, the last line.
correct?
Oh, total students, okay.
That's where they
So
are.
there are 4, we anticipate 4 apprenticeship.
Chairman of the council member, we're hoping 4 more sewer service worker apprentices in 2025. There's currently only 2. We started 4, I think, in '24, and we're down to 2, so.
Can I have a point on that?
Sure.
Are those apprentices for water pollution control, do they have to come from CMSD? Do they have to be residents of the city of Cleveland?
Chairman, they do not have to be.
Okay.
No, it is our preference to have CMSD Cleveland residents. However, we don't turn kids away, right? We
Okay.
like to support the city, we like to support CMSD, but there's no hard rule as to where the students come from. We work closely with CMSD.
Right.
But again, if a student comes and is willing to work, we're going to find a home for them.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
That was my only question. Thank you.
That was it? Okay. Councilman Polensek.
Chairman, my honorable colleagues, I won't bring up the interest income again here because I'll agree to be your investment advisor, and so you can make some money in the future. But the fact of the matter is, following up on Councilman Casey's comment, I would hope that you would notify us, the council, of all these opportunities for kids, for students, because what I have been told in the past, that there's very few kids from the east side high schools participating. And if you look at WPC, I mean, Glenville and Collinwood and Ginn are just around the corner from WPC headquarters. So all I'm saying is that, because in the past I was told that the large number of the kids for these programs were coming out of were coming out of Max Hayes. So very few of our kids are going to Max Hayes from the Far East Side. So I want to make sure that when there is, I don't know how many, between these three divisions and then administration, or if you're bringing people into the offices as well, if you could tell us how many potential positions are open, where they're at, the starting pay range, and then so then we can disseminate that information to, as Councilman Casey said, then I have Villa Angela St. Joe's as well on the northeast side, which is a large number of kids, over half of them come out of the Glenville neighborhood, going to VA St. Joe's. So I want to make sure that these kids and these school administrators are aware of these potential programs, because I think they're great. We've talked about this for years, and I want to commend the director. I want to commend the administration. I would like to see more of these types of positions available as they once were in the school system, where we had these linkages, but most of those linkages in a day were with private businesses that is dissipated. But I want to create a better chain or line of communication. If there's 20 positions available, this is where they're at, this is what the qualifications are, and then let us try to disseminate that to our local high schools, both, and I'm with Councilman Casey. You know, I don't make a determination from kids that attend parochial or public high schools. If they're in our neighborhoods, they're our kids. And I want to have the opportunity, I want them to have the same opportunity. So I'm just asking that there needs to be better, but I'd like to see, again, I'd like to see as many positions as we can create possible. We need to give these kids opportunities, and because I hear that from Ted Ginn all the time. Not all of his kids are going to play football. They need to have other opportunities. And so I'm going to put that through the chairman, through the chair and to the director and your team. Let's try to create as many positions as we can. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Mr. Chairman, can you put me down?
Piggyback on that real quick through the chair to the director. You have the children doing what?
Chairman, to the council members, so the programs that we're talking about are true apprenticeship programs that are negotiated with the unions, the collective bargaining agreements. So in this instance, at Water Pollution Control, these are sewer service workers through the union. So there's classroom work, there's on-hand training, they're in the hole, they're fixing pipe, they're doing the work that a sewer service worker does until they finish their apprenticeship, and then they're a full-fledged SSW. So that's what it is specific to water pollution control.
You know what? With me being a system guy, you know, I disagree with some of that. We need to take a look at having some of the children work with Troy. Have them learning accounting, have them learning financing. There's other job spots that's there. not just have them in the hole. The hole is a good job. You can learn a good place, but you got to cross-train children. Some of them are going to say, I don't want to go and just do that. I want to be like Trey.
Everybody should be like me.
So
Yes.
we do,
So-
Chairman, to the council member, and that was in the utilities admin budget, the traditional student
Yes.
trainees. That is IT, fiscal, engineering, all of those other, like a high school student or 12 to 14 weeks in the summer, there's, I don't know, 30 of them budgeted. So there's, when we speak of an apprenticeship program, these are, right, I only say that because that's what's at WPC, right? That union negotiated, we had to go down to Columbus and get an agreement between the state apprenticeship board, but we have opportunities for other young men and women to on the career path of accountant, engineer, IT,
Right.
public affairs communications, writing press releases, doing YouTube videos. So we have those opportunities. I just was speaking directly to WPC.
But you know what? WPC is like a business.
Yes, sir.
You got a profit and loss statement in there as well.
Oh.
It's not like the city of Cleveland with gains and losses. So I say that WPC, through the chair to the director, they have systems also. They have accounting, they have purchasing and procurement, really a big purchasing and procurement. I'm sitting back here listening to you right now.
You're right.
But they can work there as well, not just in the hole. I'm not putting that down. But then those are transferable skills that they can take elsewhere to work for other companies, whatever. Because you're set up like a profit and loss. You're set up similar to the airport, the same kind of structure in business. Right, Troy? Through the chair to her. So the children can learn that. And you could be a partnership with the schools as well, WPC. Because when I walk in, meaning automatically I look at business, automatically I look at your systems of what's going on. So here, I'm cool beans with it, but let's get the children elsewhere so they can learn, you know what I'm saying?
Got it. Thank you.
Those kind of things. When you look at that, how many, you know, and I'm a big fan of DEI, I could care less what they say. How many females, how much African Americans, they're working there in these job spots throughout utilities?
So throughout all of utilities, I thought I wrote it down. There are 1,400 current employees. 1,000 male, 400 female, 467 Caucasian. The other 940 are African American or identify other. So I don't know what the percentages are, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to give it to you.
Yeah, I'm asking because I want to see, because here's the thing, and then I'll yield. Children in school, we know it's the application of the knowledge. We know that a lot of times at the schools that Mike Polensik was just narrating, Glenville, Collinwood, again, children have to see, as I always say, success every single day. So when they get out, you ask them what they want to do when they go to college. They don't know, but if we could put it in their face where they could see it, then they could dream to believe it, and they could see what they could end up becoming. Isn't that true, Councilman Mike Polensik? But we're there, and we can cultivate them, just like you do with workers. You cultivate workers at the Water Pollution Control so that they can move up the ranks.
Yes, sir.
And that way you deal with attrition and all of that. But the children need a break like that as well.
Agreed.
Thank you, Councilman Director.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Conwell. Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is, I looked through and some of the answers the distinguished lady I'm sitting next to was very helpful. So I won't have a whole load of questions here because she's been so good hitting me here, making me understand some of the stuff. But I just want to point out on page 32 for water pollution control, we have, and this would be, as we look down all of these items, right, dealing with the utilities, there's like 70 million that you have to be able to spend in an entire department. Is that correct? Is that an accurate number, I guess? I would ask, Mr. Chairman, to the CFO if anyone can answer that question.
Councilman
On page
Iden?
32, it's 27 million. Are you referring to page
Water
32?
I'm looking at water pollution control, and maybe I'm gonna just make sure I did it all the way across.
Oh, I'm sorry. So other sources.
Right, so it comes to a total of 70 million, so I would presume that that portion is funds that we have already had on the bank that's unencumbered?
No, that 70 million would be the total resources available to the division throughout the entire year. So you see here that it says 27 million was the unencumbered at the end, or at the very beginning of 2025.
Yes.
The division anticipates receiving about $43 million in funds throughout the year. So total resources available is the $70 million, which is the purpose of this certificate.
Right. So the unencumbered amount, right, which, Mr. Chairman, to our CFO, the 27 million, round off 28 million, those funds were sitting in the account. What was the interest accrued on that amount?
Over the course of 2024, WPC received about $2.5 million in interest.
As reflected on page 337.
Yeah, I see that. And that was based upon what rate?
Mr. Gentile?
Through the chair to the council person, the rates are different because we have to look at what their cash flow need is. Their cash flow, if they're not going to use all their cash right away, we'll put the Treasury Department will put them in governmental treasury bills or treasury agencies, which gain a little bit more rate a return. For things that they're going to need in the near future goes into overnight sweeps, which is like a money market fund. But all those rates are different because if you're going to send it out long term for like a T-bill, you're going to get more percentage. Overnight, you're not going to get.
So it's like a formulated process that you try to put the money through, Mr. Chairman, to our CFO?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, the Treasury Department spends, most of their time looking at the money, looking at when it needs to be available to spend, and then investing it accordingly.
Through the chair to the councilman, so think of it as a portfolio. It's not one investment. We're not getting one rate. It's a collection of investments. So, for instance, when you have a 401k and you have multiple mutual funds or whatever you invest in, that's how it is with treasuries, agencies, safe investments. Put it into that. There's not one rate. The rate between investments will fluctuate based on market conditions and when those investments are issued. So you don't have one rate for the return on that balance.
Right. So is this like, when we look back historical on this, is this what we normally have left over in that account on an average annual basis? Because I know we don't touch a certain amount. We just keep that amount constantly going.
Fairly consistent. Through the chair to the council person, it's fairly consistent. It won't stay exactly the same, but it's somewhere in that ballpark.
Give or take 5 million here and there.
Yeah, unless there's some unusual year where they have to spend on it, but it's fairly consistent with that number in the recent past.
And then I don't, Mr. Chairman, to the director, first of all, I think you're doing a good job. So we talked about, Mr. Chairman, to the director, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but in years past, we talked about having a relationship with the various different utility departments and CMSD. Do we have a good relationship where we can utilize our school systems as stables of opportunity for young people to come into the various different departments? I know we were doing some of that in years past with Cleveland Public Power. Do we still have those programs going with CMSD?
Chairman to the councilman, yes.
We do?
Yes.
So do we have a good relationship with Cleveland Public Power still with helping young people?
Yes,
Let's
very
see.
much so.
And how many young folks do we have coming through those programs, if you may be aware of?
How many do we, Mr. Chair, through the chair,
Mr. Chairman, to the
Director, can you tell us how many apprentices are in
So-
WPC?
No, this is all of the departments, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Chairman to the council member. So at WPC currently has 2, but the big one is at Cleveland Public Power, right? Because it's a 6-year program, and you come in as a student assisted and you move up through. and I'll get you the number, but I think it's about 50, 51.
That's
We budget
good.
about 10 new a year, and that's where a lot of our working relationship with CMSD and any other school and any other Cleveland resident is at CPP and the commissioner and the assistant commissioner. But
Director, I want to stay on WPC. We can address
Okay.
Cleveland Public Power when we get
Sweet.
to Cleveland Public Power. We can talk about CPP's apprentice when we get
So
to.
for in water pollution control, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you. And water pollution control, we only have 2.
currently, December 2024, through the chairman of the council member, there were 2. We're budgeting for +4 in this budget, what
Okay.
you're considering today.
Okay, and then how would it be if a student wants to participate in these programs from, say, John F. Kennedy High School?
I couldn't hear you through the chairman of the councilman. How beneficial would it be?
How do they
do
get
they-
the opportunity
Oh,
to participate?
Well, through public
Is there
affairs
an
and
application?
communications, we're at 140 public events in the city a year, and every public affairs, communications, every festival, every park, every city event, they will have the apprenticeship information there. We email it every year to council members. I'll get it to you.
Please.
No problem.
Please, thank you. And then that way I can get it to, Mr. Chairman, I can get that to the officials up at John F. Kennedy so that our students will know about these programs available and have an opportunity to have a career with the city. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No further questions.
Thank you, Councilman. Brooke, any other questions on WPC?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Just one last.
Back on to Councilman Palunsky.
Is the commissioner still acting?
Chairman of the council member, yes. It's currently posted.
It is.
The position.
And when will that be, when that will be officially filled?
I think we posted for 2 weeks, so it'll close first week of March. Candidates interviews on board 90 days.
Okay. I just have to say for the record, I think the commissioner has done an excellent job. I need to say that for the record. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions on WPC? All right, moving on to Cleveland Public Power. Brooke, can you read in Cleveland Public Power, please?
Page 340, Cleveland Public Power, Commissioner Eamon Danielson. Page 341, Salaries and Wages, 2024 unaudited, $22,921,678. 2025 budgeted, $23,536,794. Page 343, total expenditures, 2024 unaudited, $196,835,305. 2025 budgeted, $229,515,493. And page 346, number of employees, December 2024, 218, budgeted 2025, 305. Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. And Director, just as we did the other 2, can you start with the unencumbered cash?
Chairman of the council, the unencumbered cash at the year end was about $30 million. Best practices would say that the unencumbered target for the end of 2026, which is what council had just approved on rates, should be approximately $52 million. We understand that this is not something that can happen overnight, so we are working to make sure that CPP is providing to the customers while making sure that we are also looking at our reserves as needed.
Okay. Before we go on, I forgot to mention under WPC, if I could just take a moment. Director, WPC goes out and does a lot of connection investigation from the curb to the house when somebody's got tree roots or something blocking. If you could provide the council with the number of inspections that WPC did in 2024 and the results of those connections. And then I'm going to ask the law department or our attorneys if somebody can come up with either, if it's an ordinance, a state law, I've heard a couple of different things, of the ordinance or the law that gives us the authority to start at the curb as opposed to the property line. So in other words, if somebody's got a tree root problem at the sidewalk, right, that's on the homeowner, even though that's not their property. So there's got to be some reason that we start at the curb and not at people's property. So just know that if we could ask for that information. You have that, Brooke? All right, I'm sorry. Now, if we could just continue on with Cleveland Public Power. On page 341, under utilities, electricity, other, we got an increase in that.
Yes, Chairman. So the streetlight, we have a streetlight contract to purchase power, block power, for those streetlights that are not on CPP's infrastructure. So it would be, they're non-CPP, our asset, but the power lines to it are not ours. So we need to block purchase power in order to provide that. There is an anticipated increase in 2025.
All right, so in other words, we own all the streetlights in the city of Cleveland, correct? But
That's
some
correct.
of them are not powered by Cleveland Public Power, so we have to purchase the electricity from somebody else in order to maintain the electricity and keep the lights on.
That's
On the
correct, yeah.
streetlights.
That's correct.
All right.
Right.
All right, under contractual services, again, your professional services and your other contractual are on the increase.
Chairman, the professional services as outlined on page 342 includes the conservation program for CPP through CHN, our location marking services for when we do dig underground for underground utilities, and then our bill presentment and payment through the, like I said, we have our own call center, our own billing departments, but we contract out in the divisions to send the bills out, print them, and put them in the mail and send them to our customers. So that's included in professional services.
And what about the other contractual?
Other contractual is hazardous waste, tree trimming, and landscaping, predominantly.
And we did not increase the budget for other contractual from 2024 to 2025.
24 unaudited, right, we came in right around there. No, we are not expecting, we are not increasing budget 25 in those primary areas.
All right, other contractual with the landscaping and the tree trimming, is that tree trimming like away from telephone lines? Or is that tree trimming on our own property?
No, that is simply in our, so we have 4 arborists, I believe, 2 full crews, in-house CPP. This is a staff augmentation for clearing power lines throughout our distribution network. Yes, that's correct.
And then, Mr. Chairman, is that enough?
Well, I mean, yes.
never- I
Budgetarily
mean, it's
speaking.
never
that-
enough, but-
Right, I mean, that's what we have to, we have to be, we have to recognize our customer's dollar and be cognizant of the fact it's a lot of money, $750,000 in
For tree trimming?
2025 for tree trimming alone.
Okay.
So we have to
Hang
find
on.
the balance between onboarding more and outsourcing some.
All right.
So historically, this is where we've landed. There was a couple heavy years back when we were off cycle, but we're trying to get back into a cycle.
All right, do you want a point or do you want on the list?
Just want to, you can put me on the list, but just want to know where that number was found, Mr. Director.
We're on other contractual, under contractual services on page 342.
That $1 million that we're talking about,
It's $1,038,608. Staying on page 342, under materials and supplies, we've got purchase power, power transmission costs, and capacity charges. So they're all either majorly increased or they're decreasing. So I know that all 3 of these are kind of intertwined with each other. So can you go over the purchase power, the power transmission, and then the capacity charges?
Thank you, Chairman. As you'll notice, those are very, very large numbers. So
Right.
we do not produce power at Cleveland Public Power. We buy power. We participate in the national grid in buying power. We own some resources in a conglomeration of other entities to buy the power. But purchase power is the cost of the actual power that we believe we need. Transmission costs are the costs associated with moving that power to Cleveland Public Power customers. And then the capacity charge is there's a cost associated with ensuring we can meet peak demand every day of the week. So that's the capacity charge. Those 3 charges are what is the basis for what we charge a Cleveland Public Power customer, majority.
So again, we purchase the power, we have to send the power, and then we have to make sure that if every single appliance, everything else was on, everybody had that.
Demand.
Right, that we're
Yes.
able to cover that.
That's
Correct.
correct, Chairman. All based on projections and market projections for 2025 tell everybody it's going to be more expensive.
Okay,
We're not using that much more power. It's going to be more expensive to buy the power.
especially to buy it, right?
Yes.
Paving material. So what happened in 2024? We went from 220,000 down to 10,000.
There's a court, so we had underground conduit, new run on a street in CPP service area. It was a narrow street, and the duct line took a significant part. It was determined that CPP would resurface the street, but that is not common at all, which is why it's an outlier in 2024 unaudited.
All right.
We had to pave the street curb to curb because the duct line, the duct bank, and the rest of the street was in poor condition, so it's not like we could have a mohawk down the middle.
So for only 200,000, must not have been a big street then either.
Luckily, it was not, Chairman.
All right. Again, this on page 343, this telephone charge exchange keeps coming up. Why is CPP so big?
Yeah, so specifically, Chairman, the telephone exchange, there are some improvements that need to be made to the SCADA system for CPP. We potentially may be using the contract that is with the citywide program. So we put money in there just in case. Traditionally, if it was not through this program, it would have gone through capital because we would have bought it off of our contracts, but they already have something in place.
All right.
Potentially.
And then I'll leave the debt service with the interest and the principal to Councilman Polensek. On page 344, can you explain the non-operating other?
Chairman, so that's the kilowatt hour tax. It's, I know we talked about it a little bit when we met but it's the other tax is the kilowatt hour tax as reflected in 2025 budget above that with the $6 million. And then that's the go between the general fund, right? Because it goes to the state, then back to the general fund, and then by ordinance back to, so those numbers are the same. So the kilowatt hour tax moves around entities. There are a couple that self-report their tax. A couple of our customers, which therein lies the difference between the two. But both of those line items are reflective of the 2024 unaudited kilowatt hour tax under the Ohio Revised Code and then budget 25.
All right. And then if we can go to page 340, on your output metric, number 4, the second amount. So in 2022, we had 7.5 million accounts, 180 days plus. In 2024, that came down to 3.69. Does that have anything to do with the amnesty program or the way we've made it easier for individuals to pay their bills?
Chairman, there are a couple of factors. Definitely the amnesty is one of those factors for you.
All right. Well, it's nice to see that it's all, we want that number at 0, right? But it's good to see that we've cut that number in more than half in 3 years. All right, that's all I have for CPP. Councilwoman Jenny Spencer.
Thank you, Chairman Casey. I want to go back to purchased power on page 342. And again, we don't have the privilege of seeing the 2024 budget number, but looking at 2024 unaudited to 2025 budget, that's a big jump in that purchased power cost currently budgeted for 2025 at $114 million. Can we dive a little deeper into the $114 million? Is this a result of a contractual agreement that we are bound to, or why the jump? I need to understand this a little bit better through the chair.
So Chairman of the council member, the on actual purchase power, budget 24 was 104 million. So last year, 2024, was what we would call a light weather year in the city of Cleveland. So weather does heavily influence the amount of power used by our customers, right? So we budget for the worst. We budget for very, very large swings in temperature, and we need to have the budget capacity to buy for a very, very hot summer and a very, very cold winter. So 104 is usually our wheelhouse. 104, 106 million is our budget, and then weather dependent. So the difference between those two numbers is what we're getting from projections on, market projections in the purchase of power, both contractually, what we do own, but those are set. Those do not fluctuate other than on the capacity transmission side to bring it to us. We historically know about the cost of producing that power, but there's other pockets of power that we're in the market to purchase to fully load our peak demand that is affected by market conditions.
Thank you. So through the chair, the 114 million reflects a combination of budgeting for peak demand or,
Total power.
Correct,
Yes.
total power, but we budgeted last year at 104, budgeting higher this year because of also increased costs per kilowatt hour on the market.
Correct.
Okay, and is any of that, those increased costs due to contractual agreements the city has, or is it just that additional power that we need to buy?
So one of our contracts that was from 2020 to 2024 expired on December 31st. That was at a certain price, and it went up, the replacement power went up about 25% because of the current market. Medco.
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right, I will leave it there, and if I have more questions about that, I'll come back. I wanted to jump to charges for services on page 344. 2025 budget, 227 million. Is that reflective of the rate study and the rate changes that council approved through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, it reflects the rate increase, but it also reflects the cost of power increasing at the same time. So there's two parts that we look at whenever we're looking at the charges for services. What we consider the base rates, which is what council approved, and then the second is the power recovery, because whatever we pay to the market, we pass along to our customers. And so that is reflected in this.
Through the chair, when did the new rates, or when will they go into, actually hit customer bills through the chair?
They hit, through the chairman to the councilwoman, they hit in the January bills.
Okay.
Any bills that had a end date of January 1st or later.
Okay, thank you. And then one last note is just, again, happy to see, and I had it, and total students 15, budgeted in 2025. So happy to see that looks like we're aiming for 15 apprentices, bringing on 15 apprentices this year. Is that accurate through the chair?
Yes, Chairman, to the council members, so we actually submitted, so there's paperwork making its way through, 13 student assistants for 2025. So, and then the total, I did find my list to Councilman Jones's earlier line of questioning. With those onboarding for 2025, 62 is the total number of participants, students in the apprenticeship program at Cleveland Public Power currently. Correct, Chairman, to the council.
Okay, those were my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Councilman Polensky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on page, to the director and the team, on 341, under electricity other, what will we be paying $2 million for to First Energy for?
Chairman, to the council member, so there's a number of streetlights in the city of Cleveland that are owned by CPP that are not served by CPP infrastructure. So we have to buy the power to send them to those lights, and that's the $2 million we're budgeting for 2025.
And there's no way through the chair, there's no way we can convert over those lights over?
It'd be a heck of a lot more than $2 million.
Think
And that's
so?
our goal, Chairman, to the
You think
council
so?
member. I mean, if we had if the entire city of Cleveland were our service area, which is our intention and the direction from council, if we had the money to do it, we would have done it. But we're looking to do that, and then this line item would go away.
You know what that cost would be?
Oh, my gosh, no.
How many lights are we talking, Mr.
The
Chairman?
entire, I mean,
West Side.
yeah, you're familiar with the CPP service area. It
Yes.
would be all of those areas that are not on the maps we give you twice a year.
But it was please correct me if I'm wrong, it was my understanding that we had taken all of the streetlights in the city.
Chairman of the councilman, the streetlight belongs to CPP.
Yes. Yes.
That's correct.
And is that the charge for streetlights?
That's the power that charges those streetlights that are not on CPP's infrastructure.
Okay.
They bought streetlights that were not fed by CPP.
Okay. That was a smart decision. Okay. Okay, I'm just trying to understand.
Owning the
'cause I-
streetlights was, but
I thought when we took all the streetlights,
Sorry.
that we took all the infrastructure with that as well.
Chairman of the council member, that's not correct.
Okay.
Got a
okay.
pole and a light, and the light had to be replaced, and
You have just
we're stuck with it.
educated me. Okay, and I'm going to look forward to working with the chair on that one. On your number of employees, on page 345, you're down under trouble line worker. You're down on page 346 under line helper driver 1, line help driver 2. And you finished last year with 200, we had budgeted in 2024, 305 employees. You ended the year 218, so that was a substantial drop of employees. Now you're proposing again this year, 305. What, the drop of employees, what was that, do we know what that was attributed to retirement or just people leaving?
So Chairman of the council member, I mean, they're December 23, 211. So
That's
the
a big drop.
305 number is the budget. Total, full capacity, every seat is filled head
Right.
count. The amount of separation in 2024, and I do have the number in my book, but, you know, we were never at 305 in 24.
Well,
and
that's
then
what I'm
also-
saying.
Yeah, but we did have a number of individuals separate at CPP, but nothing was
No.
dramatic.
Councilman, and our low point actually was in 2022.
14.
At 200 employees, and we are slowly bringing ourselves back up to 217. They have been successful with our apprentices graduating the senior lineman program, as well as some of the senior linemen have come back that had left in those prior years.
Okay. Well, obviously, I don't have to tell the director, a great concern of ours on the northeast side is the ongoing power outages and the ability to respond to those ongoing power outages. So I'm not going to belabor this point, but as we go into this year and we go into capital, I really need to understand from the director and from the commissioner what the game plan is to upgrade the grid in the greater Collinwood area, which is the largest customer base for Cleveland Public Power, because the grid is extremely old in some areas of the northeast side. So I'm going to leave that for further discussion. But I've got to, not only myself, but all of us have to be assured that there is going to be a priority to fill open positions. We need to be able to, when a power out or a storm, and we all know we've been having these crazy storms, more so than ever before. Excuse me, we have to have the ability to respond within a reasonable period of time. Get the power back on.
If I could, so Chairman, to the council member, attraction of line workers is a national issue.
Okay.
We negotiated what we felt was a very, very competitive collective bargaining agreement with the union. We've incentivized overtime response. And we've seen a market difference in 2024. But it's not attracting the candidates, the line workers from across the country to relocate to Cleveland and CPP. So we haven't seen the level of interest with a very competitive hourly rate and other incentives.
Okay.
But those workers that we have are working a lot harder. Not that they weren't working hard, but they're responding in the event of an emergency at a higher rate, which we're happy to see. And we're going to continue to work with them in emergency response and restoration of service in the event of interruption.
Are we competitive wage-wise
Chairman,
and salary-wise with First Energy?
Absolutely.
We are.
Absolutely. Chairman of the Councilman.
Okay. Well, I need to hear that because
Yes.
obviously I have to believe we would provide our city employees, we would provide better health care to someone in the private sector. We have PERS, which is better than in the private sector. We have prescription, we have dental. So I would like to think that
We have
if we're-
council support.
Yes, if we're competitive from a salary standpoint or hourly wage, then maybe we have to figure out a better way of marketing the positions that are open. I know we've tried to do with the overwhelming support of the council, we've tried to do what we can to increase marketing for the Division of Police.
Yeah, we market nationally.
Okay.
And every APPA periodical, every line worker, every
But maybe-
organization
okay.
or publication.
Again, I'll make it through the chair. Get the 17 members something, the
Okay.
positions that are open.
We can do that.
We have our newsletters. Let us try to advertise as best as we can with you to get these positions filled.
Thank you.
To me, it's all about service. That's what I got elected for, service. That's what I'm here for, service. And when the power's out and I become the answering service for Cleveland Public Power, I'm very much aware of the concerns that the residents have. So I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to fill open positions. And then again, some of these positions, you're in the budget, you're advocating or recommending lower numbers, like on page 346. So again, I'm not going to belabor the point because I know the chair does a good job of bird dogging this stuff. But we got to make sure that this system is operating as most effectively and efficiently as it can. And again, this issue with the ongoing power outages on the northeast side and the greater Collinwood and Glenville neighborhoods is of great concern to me. You're going to have to come up with a game plan as we go into spring and summer to address the grid out on the northeast side. But we have to have the employees. I'll leave it at that point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Polensek. And, one of the things that I was just reading an article with keeping linemen are storm chasers. We'll train somebody, they become a storm chaser, and then they can run out to Oklahoma or Kansas and make $40,000, $50,000 a month. And a lot of utilities are finding that problem competing with the storm chasers. So,
But it goes back into the apprenticeship program.
right, no,
Exactly. Exactly.
all right, Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at, I'm going to start up where my colleague left off in terms of the numbers for staffing. I see that we have budgeted for 2023 the same amount, which was 305. So it sounds like currently, for clarification, Mr. Chairman, to the director, how many employees is it? 217 employees we have now, or is it 211 currently?
Chairman of the Council Member, 218, December of 2024.
So we have 218 now?
That's correct.
I see. And we hope to increase that
Every day.
number all the way up to 305? Are we
That
looking
would
to
be
do that?
wonderful.
Are we looking to do that this year?
That would, yes, through the Chairman of the Council Member.
And I, again, like my colleague said, getting the information out to us. Do you have those positions already posted and available, Mr. Chairman, to the director?
Chairman to the council member, I know line worker was posted, is posted continuously through the Division of Civil Service. A lot of those positions are fed through the line workers when you move into the different supervisory positions or et cetera. And also, I mean, that's the core of the response team. The switchers, the splicers, all of those are posted, yes.
And then I'm going to move over here to, Mr. Chairman, transmission. If you can help me understand that, because I know this, the cost has been similar or the same.
Councilman, what
throughout
page
our-
are you on?
On page 342, Mr. Chairman. And I'm looking at materials and supplies, and it's the same area where our colleague Jenny Spencer touched on. If Mr. Chairman, if the director could tell me, when we talk about power transmission costs, would this be the charges that are coming from other utility companies in order for our $114 million investment to go over those lines? How does that calculate it, Mr. Chairman?
Director,
To
can
the
you,
director.
Director, can you explain that again?
So the transmission, Chairman to the council member, power transmission costs as outlined on page 342. That's the cost to move the power from the source
Right.
to CPP. So depending on which utility lines it's going through, it's charged through PJM, who is our regional grid as governed by the federal government.
I
So
see.
NERC, the National Energy Regulatory Commission, through created these regional grids. Ours is PJM, so we pay the transmission costs through PJM.
So that $30 million is a part of carrying that, is a charge for us to carry the $114 million.
Yes, sir.
And even though it's more power that we will be purchasing, that price seems to be lower than last year's projections of $29 million. Why would that be a difference? Or it doesn't make a difference at all? So you can have unlimited power come through as long as you pay a certain fee? How does that work? Mr. Chairman, to the director.
Chairman of the council member, again, these are all based on projections. So we have a placeholder in the budget that is hopefully very close to what we project we will pay for those line items. And the 27,430 is a number that we feel comfortable as budgeting. Last year's transmission costs were a little higher, at 29, right? So it's a number that we're comfortable in budgeting, and then we need to keep a very close eye on it on a monthly basis. Chairman of the council member.
And so, looking at this here, I see it. To me, I noticed the difference between the transmission costs and the capacity charges, and that's why I wanted to kind of get an idea there. When we move down here to Mr. Chairman, to the capacity charge, that's just extra electricity that you may need to add on to the power that we're purchasing over here. Or when you say capacity charges, can you explain what that really fundamentally is?
So,
Director,
Chairman of the.
Because I heard what you said last time, but I wasn't clear.
So the
on that.
capacity charges are what every utility provider pays to ensure that on the grid at any one time, there are enough resources to serve all of the customers. So every utility has to pay this number, regardless.
I see. And then lastly, while we sit here, we talk about the expansion of Cleveland Public Power. I know that we had some conversations, or I heard some of the talk about if we needed to expand over to the airport, how much it would have cost us. But what would that cost us if we invested over there? And wouldn't we make a profit if we made that investment within a turnover 7 or 8 years?
Chairman to the council member, that's probably accurate, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, to the director, why haven't we looked at trying to, and this is something that is important for the preserving of this utility, it has to grow. Is there any propositions to grow Cleveland Public Power with making that kind of investment and being able to reap the benefit of the profits over at that airport for years and years to come.
Chairman and the council member, yes, sure, there's plans, but the rates aren't there as reflected in this budget to come up with the $22 to $25 million to expand. So we would have to have a rate increase because our customers pay every dime of this, right? So the expansion to the airport anywhere, let's just use $20 million.
Right.
$20 million, we've exhausted the unencumbered cash, we've violated all debt indentures. So you have to have the rates to support that investment. We didn't ask council to pass the rates because our customers couldn't afford the rates currently. Hopefully, as we incrementally increase our unencumbered cash and our capital outlay and expand in our existing footprint, then we can get to the airport and make that very significant investment. But
I would, and the only reason why, I asked that because, Mr. Chairman, I know that each year we carry close to $30 million over every year from the department. And so to me, Mr. Chairman, it would appear that if we could shave some of that money down, we could make the investments and we wouldn't have to ask for the increases, because it seems like every single year, year in and year out, we have that $30 million. And then, there could be $10 million from this budget set aside for that project. The next year, another $5 or $10 million set aside, and then we'll have the resources from your actual subsidiary budget to do those expansions. Because right now, what we're doing is we're waiting for a calamity to happen. And that means that some major issue happens and we're going to have to really make a lot of more money investment into this versus looking at ways and means, Mr. Chairman, just my perspective here, that this company needs to expand and grow. And we have to look at not only just in this line item here for this organization, but ways and means to expand our service territory and get more customers. And that's what I've been suggesting, Mr. Chairman, all along with, as it relates to Cleveland Public Power. Because right now, we're just going along to get along, to pay Paul and Peter the best way we can. And I just don't see, now unless there is some growth plan that we are developing. I've been told that there's been a plan now for several years, but I haven't seen anything. And this is before you, Mr. Chairman, to the director even got here at the table.
thank you.
So I guess the question is there any growth plans that you have on the horizon?
Chairman of the council members, yes, there's always growth plan, and our growth plan now encompasses providing the highest level of service to our customers, existing customers, which is why council supported the rate increase, right? So you were not going along to get along. We're serving customers every day, and people are working really hard at it. So yes, currently we're stabilizing the budget, which council gave us the authority to do, thankfully. But if you were to take $10 million out of the unencumbered cash, we would violate every debt indenture and be out of business. So our number one objective...
So there's certain rules you have to follow, Mr. Chairman, to the director, so you couldn't use those funds for investments?
You could not, but we went through it in the budget, in the rate ordinance. We gave you everything you could ever want on our what we need to have, our minimum thresholds.
Okay.
And in the operational review hearing. You can't take $10 million out of it. You can't. But we will take your recommendations under advisement. We certainly appreciate your expertise, and we'll look forward to continuing the conversation.
No, I guess, Mr. Chairman, to the director, again, it's ways and means for expansion. So yeah, I supported the increase, and you came to my town hall meeting too and talked
Yes.
to our citizens in the neighborhood, and you had a great reception too, I'm quite sure.
Thank you.
Probably more so than all the other neighborhoods you went to. And what I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, whether it's the 10 million here or some other ways and means, I want to hope to see that we could do that. And I think that we talked about initially, because I was a fan for using ARPA funds to help with the expansion over to the airport. So the way I look at it,
Well,
I think that you need to have everything you need to have in order to, and it's the way I look at it, the most important thing for us is our investments in our infrastructure. So when we had that $511 million, it made sense to invest that $22 million so that you can make resources, make that up within several years. You're in a profit zone out there at the airport. And you have, Mr. Chairman, to the director, the ability and capacity to reach over and start serving other people right from the airport.
You're
So
right.
you would have, technically speaking, a jump-off spot. And so when we start talking about if we're going to keep the city as it is and it just maintains and lose population without a plan, then we're going to get into the space of where we are right now, pretty much not growing and then falling backwards. And so I'm just forwardly thinking, Mr. Chairman, if those funds become available in any budget, I would be the first person to say we should make that investment to
We'll take
expand
it.
over there to that.
We'll take it.
And so that's the reason why I'm
take it.
suggesting. I don't want you, Mr. Chairman, to the director, think that I'm beating you up. It's just that
I'm
I've
not
sat
getting
here
beat up. I want the
for,
money, too.
for 2 terms, and I've asked from the very beginning, what is the growth process here for Cleveland Public Power? And I've had different directors and different commissioners and different people spin me here at this table. So all I'm saying to you, Mr. Chairman, to the director, whatever we can do to expand Cleveland Public Power, because
Agreed.
it's not about just today, but it's about the future of our city. And it's a great asset for us to have.
Absolutely agree.
And I appreciate the work. And then, Mr. Chairman, at this, on terms of customer service, because that's what you said, it's about service.
Sir.
Most of the time, when I'm having problems with utilities, I call Margaret Jackson, and she takes good care of me.
Good care.
And I appreciate you when I do get an opportunity, and I don't like to call you a whole lot. That's why I call Margaret all the time. But if I do call you, I do appreciate the fact that
Absolutely.
you pick up the phone. So my issue on customer service is that when my constituents can't reach in, I mean, how many people, and where would that show here on this budget book, those people who are answering the phones when we have these power outages and these issues, and our people can't get because they call me at midnight when their power goes out.
Director, can you answer that question quickly, because the councilman's almost out of time?
Call center rep, do you have it? So the important thing about when the power goes out and calling chairman to the councilman, and I'll get you the staff number, I just switched pages. But also the outage map is new in 2024. It's hard to, and we've had the conversation here all the time. It's hard to have a call center that can take 4,000 calls in 5 minutes. If the power's out, we know the power's out, right? And I apologized every time I'm here as to the constituents calling you when they can't get through to the call center. But the upfront messaging and the outage map have proven to be useful tools to our customers. And we know the power's out. Sometimes they hang up. Sometimes they don't call you, but we all know that they're going to call you anyhow. So we feel as if we are making advances in our call center, which is not the only customer service that we provide. It's not only during an outage, right? They're very busy, they're passionate, they're professional, and I try to support them every turn I can because it's a really hard job. And then the lights go off for any number of reasons, and then their job becomes even more difficult. So we plan, we process, we have resources, and I try to support them the best I can. But I would point to the upfront, or to the outage map that's on cpp.org. In the unfortunate event that service is interrupted, please go to cpp.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to Director, and thank you for the work you do for our people.
Thank you. Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Man, I almost forgot what I was going to ask. Man.
You almost forgot, or you forgot? Because if you forgot, we can move on.
Yeah, let's move on, because, I call Marty
Okay.
anyway.
All
It
right.
was
There you
on.
can always call Marty.
I always call the director.
Councilwoman Spencer. Thanks, Kevin.
Mr. Chair, I realized I forgot to ask a question earlier. And I'm sorry if I missed this. Through the chair, can we be guided to where tree trimming lives on this budget? Where is tree trimming? Is that an in-house function? And where is that on the budget?
Chairman, to the council member, it is reflected on other contractual, under contractual services on page 342. That includes hazmat disposal, tree trimming, and landscaping. We do budget annually about $750,000 for support in the tree trimming. That is both routine and emergency response. We have crews, but again, and we are working collectively, thanks to your leadership and council member Moore, with Jennifer Kipp and we have shared our contracts and our specs, and like we know it needs to get better. But 750 is where we are currently on the budget. It's been that way for a number of, well, it was $1 million for a couple years, maybe 2000 and 2001. And then we tried to get it to 750, which our budget could accommodate. And now we're trying to get in a cycle, right? So routine maintenance, routine tree trimming in compliance with all of the standards that we set forth, because a lot of our power disruptions are due to wood in the sky by our lines.
That's right. So just a final comment through the chair. I know that this is not an operational discussion today, but it's really important that we're flagging this because it sounds like we're maybe not quite there with having our specs in place that back and forth with urban forestry. So, all right. I will follow up offline and look forward to that discussion. So,
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You know, Mr. Chairman, I got it back.
Come on.
Here's the question.
I didn't call on you.
Oh, I thought you called.
No, go ahead.
All right, here's the question to the director. Looking at the at CPP, looking at utilities, water, and then you look at the stadium when it goes. So what is the risk of dealing with cost and, because I know CPP powers the stadium, correct?
That's correct, Chairman of
So
the
we're going to
Council.
lose revenue as well as with utilities. Have you add that up, projections?
Chairman of the Councilman, I have not.
Yeah, when you do your strategic plan, you know, you guys do that. Just
Yes.
add it up
Yes.
and see where we're at losing with that. All right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then labor too, because you know if you lose that, we might lose some labor.
Thank you. Yes.
That was it. That was it.
All right, thank
Round
you.
real quick.
All right, appreciate that. All right, Director, listen, on behalf of Cleveland City Council, none of us sitting at this side of the table want to climb a pole, right, in the middle of a thunderstorm, nor do we want to go drudging through our sewers, looking for backups. So on behalf of Cleveland City Council, we can't thank the employees of the Department of Public Utilities enough for the job and the work that they do, making sure that our water's clean, our sanitation is clean, that our lights are on. So we appreciate that. At that time, that ends Department of Public Utilities. I believe we're turning it over to Councilman Kevin Conwell for health.
You look wore out.
Yes.
Yeah, we're on health.
Director Keene, I appreciate his response, calls for service, that was keen. And I just need to say that I appreciate the commissioners and the director's response to calls like this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Director. Thanks, CFO.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
You know,
For now. Last minute green sheet on here. For whatever reason, the voting allowance didn't make this was like negative. Oh, this is for,
so,
this is for
so let's begin with the Health Committee. I want to say this before we start, before we begin. One of my best friends, take it easy on me, man. You know what I'm talking about. You got me? Take it easy on me, man.
I just got
my
asked, did I have some questions for health? And I said very few.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We're going to start the Health Committee. I want to say this also to you, Director, and to the Director, and when I text you guys sometime early in the morning, he gets it too. 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m., isn't that true? That's true. That's true, I text him sometime.
we got a good
when I get up
director.
in the morning, yeah, he get it, man, he get it. When I wake up in the morning, sometime 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, there's two things I think about. That's the city, the health department, as well as my music. So if I don't call you, then I'm downstairs in the basement practicing on my drums. Yeah, man, trying to keep it down until the wife come downstairs. So, yeah, or above your head practicing here.
So let's get going, baby.
What I want to do is skip something. I want to move to the first thing first is Division of Environments, and I want to move there first. As we know, there have been some changes and some cuts in the Division of Environment, and we want to see how we're going to try to fill that gap. So I want to yield to you, Director, and then we'll start moving on. Can you call it Division of Environment?
Page 206, Division of Environment.
It's in there. It's in public health.
Commissioner Wallace Chambers.
Because it's been cut by the federal government council member, and I want to see where we're at. First thing first. Call.
Page 206, Division of Environment, Commissioner Wallace Chambers. Page 207, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $1,219,487. 2025 budgeted, $1,544,102.
Director.
Page 208, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $1,921,100. 2025 budgeted, $4,586,777. Page 209, number of employees December 2024, 19. Budgeted 2025, 24. Chairman.
Put you on. Okay. Director.
Sure. Thanks, Chairman, Councilman Conwell. Just the big thing with environment this year, no cuts. We're actually growing. Headcount from our budget, I think we're up 2 compared to last year. And that is, and then $2 million, nearly $2 million in the other contractual line on page 207, which is our Home for Every Neighbor program, which will move completely to the Department of Public Health going forward if this body approves.
Okay. Now, we've got cut dealing with the federal government, and that's why I moved to environmental. So what's your plan and what we're looking at?
To the chair, no cuts that would affect environment directly.
There's not?
No, we get federal funding in several other of our divisions, but environment is the food safety program. It's the lead program. I think outside of our budget,
I got you.
one of my many concerns about what's happening at the federal government is more about HUD funding and how that will impact our lead program, but it won't directly impact the personnel in our
It
program.
won't directly impact it. Okay, good. Because
More work.
you mainly you go for grants and grant funding.
Correct.
And you've been doing quite well, not losing. Matter of fact, you've been doing very well, not losing any grant dollars. And who does your evaluation for the grants?
Through the chair.
Your development department.
Yeah, through the chair, it depends on the grant. Our program managers, we have a quality assurance person on the team, we've got our fiscal team, and then all of the grants have different levels of audits. And some of the grants require hiring an external evaluator as part of the grant, for example, the Moms First program. And so it just depends on the program.
When you do your quality assurance, who's over that?
It depends on the different programs, so all sorts of different individuals. It's a whole team effort.
You guys have files for it, for your evaluation process?
Yes, sir.
Dealing with the dollars?
Yes, sir.
No, there's no risk of losing any funding? Are you hitting all your benchmarks?
Through the chair, we're absolutely hitting all of our benchmarks, and our audits have been fantastic. It's just the concern about the federal government freezes that has us most concerned right now.
That's what I was concerned about.
But all the websites as of right now are active, and we're able to pull down funds. But obviously we're concerned about worst case scenarios.
You see any threats with the federal government to the budget?
Through the chair, yes, yes, we do. So we have our air quality monitoring program is funded through the Department of Homeland Security. That's one that we always are concerned about if the federal government changes their mind. The Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant. There are a number of grants that the HRSA, Moms First, the Fatherhood Initiative is through federal grants. So there's always concerns.
I know I talked with someone down there when we go to the National League of Cities. I'm going to meet with some people on the fatherhood. They said that the fatherhood piece should be pretty good. And I know we're going to huddle, I think, on the 9th of March.
Good.
And then we look at the moms first, because that's very, very important that we have that. Moving right along, page 208. The going down here on the budget for 1,900 to 21,100, you spanked almost double to $4,586,000 from 2024 to 2025, about a 48% increase. And I see that we only went up in labor by 3 or 4 people. No. Through the chair to the controller, and then we'll yield to you.
To the chair, it's Home for Every Neighbor program for the homelessness is now going to be in the Division of Environment if this budget's passed. So if you go to other contractual, you're going to see 1.9 million in there, when last year it was only 18,000 spent. So Home for Every Neighbor will now be in this if this budget's approved.
You know, when I left the house this morning, my wife gave me this to give to you about North Point. Let me say it and read it. North Point Transitional, did you see it, Council President? Housing is a 152-bed facility operated by Frontline Services to aid currently homeless people in the shelter system in finding employment and their own permanent independent housing. The building has issues that need to be addressed. I visited the building in November, early November, me as well as Councilmember Brian Casey, and it needs a lot of work. So what my wife did, Yvonne, County Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell, gave me for this, because I wanted you to bring that up, Controller, issues and concerns. She said the county, they met through her health committee, and they're putting some dollars there, but here's their issues and concerns with the city, because she mentioned that we own that property, but we need to put some help in it as well. All right. Okay?
Thank you.
And so we'll talk later about it. I'm not going to wake you up at 2 a.m. in the morning to talk about it, but we'll talk next week. And I want to, before I yield to you, Council Member, I want to yield to Council Lady Jenny Spencer. Jenny, and then I'll put you down, Joe.
Briefly, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Joe Jones. You said you was going to help me out, man.
I said briefly.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Director. I want to use my time to talk about that increase in other contractual. I find it's a little surprising that, I wouldn't have necessarily expected to find Home for Every Neighbor here. However, thank you for clarifying that that's where it's being budgeted under the Division of Environment. I wanted to ask about it, and I might want to work with our policy staff on some follow-up on this, only because, first of all, Home for Every Neighbor has been very successful and effective. However, we paid for it out of supplemental funds, and at that time, it was really positioned as this is a one-time expense. There was a lot of discussion on this body about the county's responsibility versus the city's. Although Home for Every Neighbor has been very effective, I think we would benefit from a little more of a robust report card in terms of we got so many people housed. Why do we need another 1.9 million this year? So where I think there's a little bit of a gap in my understanding is, and I have not talked to my colleagues, so I can only speak for myself. we had that huge upfront infusion of resources, that investment that really was positioned as a one-time investment. And now we're looking at another 1.9 million. And so now it's becoming more programmatic and something that seems to be being treated in the budget as an ongoing programmatic expense. Sure. So just to increase my own comfort level with it, I think there's questions around, are there discussions with the county about this program? Is there collaboration there? Why does the city feel that a full 1.9 million is needed when I believe the current program has been very successful in housing people? Yeah. I think they're just dealing with or working closely with the mayor's team in my community. I've been trying to learn a lot, watching Home for Every Neighbor go to work. There's been some interesting push and pull with, please keep this initiative relatively quiet because people may choose to remain unhoused so they can get housing through this program as opposed to needing to go to shelter. So there's some really complex dynamics, and I think for those of us who are, listen, I've never been bored in this job for a minute. I've always been in a learning space. I am not an expert when it comes to working with the unhoused population, but I do think that we would benefit from it, and I think we need, especially when we are looking at adding it now as not a one-time expense, but as a potentially recurring programmatic expense, not an inexpensive one.
Right.
I think we need a little bit more detail and justification for why the 1.9 million, and again, is that another anticipated to be a one-time expense only for 2025? Does the city think this will be recurring? And I'm in no way implying that this has not been an effective program, but it is a brand new thing that the city has never done before. Absolutely. Right. And so have we had a full accounting of how did it go and why do we need it again in 2025 at that $1.9 million level? So that was sort of a mix of a question and a statement. It's more flagging for our research staff as flagging for our research staff as follow-up. Again, I just think a little bit more of that color and teaching and understanding of how is the administration thinking of this request and this expense? Is it now considered to be a recurring program? What is the further breakdown of that 1.9 million? What are we paying for with the 1.9 million? Especially knowing that we made a sizable one-time payment last year with supplemental funds. Mr. Chair, I hope all of that makes sense. And I'm in a learning space with this. I'm definitely open-minded, but I do feel that more information is needed for such a large budgetary item.
Right.
Through the chair.
Just go through the chair for me, Council Lady Director.
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you. No, it's a great question. This is a really big deal. I would say that the Home for Every Neighbor program has been one of the most impactful, prideful programs that we've done together. Councilwoman House-Jones has been integral to helping this. Councilman Harsh, through his role in the Office of Homeless Services, obviously Council President helping to spearhead this. And so I apologize if the implication was a one-time thing. I think part of the dream was one-time proof of concept to see if with that the supplemental fund, if this was something that was worth doing in future years. And as of today, we're up to about 140 people who've been housed for at least 12 months directly from campsites from the street.
152.
152, okay, awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. And so this has been absolutely an ongoing conversation between us and the county. There are a few thousand people experiencing homelessness in the county. Most of those folks are in shelters. And there is a smaller unsheltered population, which is anywhere from 150 people to 500 people, which is why we had set that goal at 150. And so we think that we are reaching a steady state where we've worked down this extraordinary backlog of folks who were waiting for housing or not willing to go to shelters for lots of different reasons. And but unfortunately, due to the the conditions in our city, in our state, and our country, there will continue to be new people experiencing homelessness, and we're all going to be learning together what happens this summer as the weather gets warm again, to see how many people come out of maybe vacant homes or vacant cars and are now camping, and so that's the goal, to keep doing this program with your permission, because it's been so successful, and it's a piece that the county had not been covering. The county has been invested in the shelter systems and transitional and other things that they're able to invest in, which, by the way, is all at risk right now with the federal government cutting HUD. So we absolutely have seen a value in this program, and with this is a way to bring it into the future, if you're willing.
If I may,
Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think again, just a little more learning and detail on the 1.9 million request. So what would be the breakdown of expenses within that request? How many individuals would be housed with that amount of money?
Sure.
And because you mentioned proof of concept, I think that's a great example of, and yes, this is, all I can emphasize is this is a learning space for everybody. With the folks who were housed through our previous allocation for Home for Every Neighbor, what were the lessons learned? That was a 12-month, right?
Yeah.
12 months of rent for people with wraparound services. Are some of those parties going to need to be rehoused through these funds? Or are we talking about totally unique and different and new people? Or are we still housing some from that initial cohort of people that were housed in the first round? I do think that information is important because since it is a proof of concept, and I know this has already been modeled in other cities, but let's be clear about what this work looks like, and then who, how many people we can house sustainably. Do we have any knowledge of anyone who were part of this process in the proof of concept phase? Are they still going to need housing support? Where did they stand after 12 months? What happened? I know there's a lot of questions
You're asking
embedded
a lot of
there,
questions. I'm ready
but
to
I
answer.
think so. I think it's I think the follow-up is a combination of a breakdown of the 1.9 million, what that money will go towards, as well as sort of a wrap-up of the first year, and not only how many did we house, but how many will continue to need housing support? Is anyone able to roll off the program? Are people still needing to be in the program? Is this 1.9 for people already in the program, or for what we sadly anticipate to be a need for additional and new people? So that's the type of follow-up I think is needed
Through the
to
chair,
better understand.
I can answer. So why don't we go through each of those? So I think first of all, what's important here is this is the budget, and in order to expend this money, we would need to come to you for legislation to spend it. And so that was the anticipation, is a more formal presentation and breakdown of with a plan of which agency, how much money, what purpose for each agency. I think the second thing, just to point out that certainly we, along the way, we're learning from other cities to model what we're doing, but we're actually at the point where we're teaching other cities now. No other city has reached a steady state in terms of reducing unsheltered homelessness compared to what we've done in Cleveland in this past 12 months.
I don't know yet. We don't have great outcome measures from reading this right here and listening to the wife before I go to sleep. I hear her voice.
I don't.
And so when you read this, there's no great outcome measures from that.
So,
Because you see the yellow lines and there are things that need to be repaired.
I'm sorry,
It's
through
a
the chair, we're
different
talking about
program.
two different things.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is not the Home for Every Neighbor program.
But I'll talk with you off. What I'm going to do is meet with him offline, because when we go to the smoke shops, which is another thing, we're going to ride the different neighborhoods, around your neighborhood, then we'll stop for lunch, and then we'll discuss. We're not going to walk like we walk 2.5 miles. So the different thing is we'll talk about that, and the different thing we'll talk about the smoke shop. We'll do both.
Yep.
We'll do overlapping.
So yeah, sorry, different. That's through the chair. That's a different program. But
We'll do both.
yeah, we can definitely. We will have presentations prepared, but I know that Emily Collins is sending an update also with the number of folks who have been housed. But so the $1.9 million budgeted here would be to continue with new participants in the program. The existing participants in the program were funded through last year's budget. We anticipate with just this money alone, we'd be looking at 80 to 100 participants. The way we were able to spread out the money farther in the previous version was using some of the different funds from the federal government, which is still kind of an alphabet soup to me, but I think ESG or something to that effect. And the money goes to first to housing, so subsidized rental, fully subsidized rental for 12 months. Second is for case management. Third is for flex fund, so different types of things that people need, such as like bus passes, maybe furniture, other things that just come up on a case-by-case basis. And then clinical case management is something we'd also like to do, kind of a higher level of case management to support people. And then you also supported one position in the health department last year through the supplemental ordinance, and this budget would have one additional person. So if that person ever, it's just to build some redundancy and to grow that team.
So through the chair, there would be two, in addition to Emily Collins, there would be two staff members within the health department working on Home for Every Neighbor. And then it's my understanding there's other folks who were on the phone with landlords trying to find housing. So I'm not sure where those
Yes,
folks.
sorry.
Through the
I
chair.
neglected an area. So through the chair, yeah, there are like 8 different groups working on the Home for Every Neighbor program. So I mentioned the rental subsidy, I mentioned the case management. There's also unit acquisition, and so that's been a big part of it that we think have established a best practice with your support in finding apartments based on a person's needs. So historically, when we're looking for apartments, folks have sat at phones and just gone to Zillow or different rental websites to find landlords, but we're really knocking on doors and inspecting apartments. So that's been a big part of the work of the team. And so we'll have 2 members on staff. Emily Collins is a senior advisor to the mayor, and so her role has been to help troubleshoot, help get build the foundation of the program. But Liam Haggerty, who is on our team at the health department, is the project director.
Right.
And then this position would be bringing in like a project specialist or a deputy project director.
But the full expense of the program is not, there's some cross-departmental collaboration in some of the other activity. So
This year there is, and then through the chair, going forward, we'd like to have that all sit in the health department to keep it a little bit more streamlined.
Okay. So again, this is, and Mr. Chair, I'll kind of conclude here because I know I'm probably bumping up against my time. But I think, again, this is just, for me, a huge learning opportunity. I know we've gotten the numbers from Emily about number of people housed. I think perhaps it's too soon, but is there a way to draw some early conclusions about after housing folks through this program with the additional services, is 12 months enough to, of housing? Do they need more time? How much, and I'm sure it varies across the program participants, but just beginning to tease out some of those deeper lessons and indications of what is the scale of the work and any early lessons learned that can be shared other than, we have been receiving those numbers about individuals housed. I'm looking for a learning opportunity for any additional insights that we've been learning through this funding. So, all right.
Through the chair,
Thanks, Mr.
there's
Chair.
so much. There's so much. So I would absolutely, and I just texted Emily to reach out to you to give a deeper dive as well, and definitely can offer that to other members of the body.
Yeah,
What we
I
could
think
do,
that'll be
too-
through our policy team. Our policy staff can kind of be the intake, and then that way it can be shared with all council members. That would be great. Thank you.
What we'll do, email me that, what you just narrated to the council lady. When you and I meet after budget hearings, we'll discuss it. And then we'll move forward and we'll bring in all the key stakeholders, the county, Jenny Spencer, Brian Casey, because he was with us at the house when we visited, and he saw the conditions there, and we own that. So that's in that paradigm. You said it's not, but it is in the paradigm. And so we'll sit down and we will discuss it. Because you remember in November, we went there in November, right? Yeah. Right, and we said we were going to reach out to you And so after meeting with you, we'll call a meeting with Jenny and the county, and then we'll see where we're at.
Thanks, yep.
So that we can help, and you said some legislation need to move forward. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct, through the chair. So the North Point, though, that is probably under MOCAP's budget and capital projects.
But look it up. Tell me
Yeah,
about it
absolutely.
when we see, and she told me to give it to you, and, but we'll talk about it, because it is dealing with the homeless as well. And we want to see where we're at. And the mayor's homeless czar knows about it, because she reached out, she is my wife, reached out to her as well.
Okay, great.
All right, I got to tell you, because if I don't tell you, when I go
you
home,
get in
she
trouble.
gonna
Yeah, I
mention,
get it.
dear, did you talk with the director about it? And if I say I forgot, then I'm in trouble. So, you know,
got it.
I got to make sure that I did tell you, and I got witnesses.
I got it.
So let's see here, Mike Polisic, may I help you?
207 for breakdown. We're not going to leave it upon professional services and the other contractual. We request that. We're going to get that, correct? We're going to get that correct?
Through the
That is-
chair, I have that here if you need it, but it can
Yes,
also.
I'd like to get that in writing. Then on page 209, who does the inspection here of the stores?
Through the chair to the council member, that is the Public Health Sanitarian 2 in training and the Public Health Sanitarian 3 and Public Health Sanitarian 4. And there are 10 additional members to that department who are on the food fund funded by the state.
Yes.
And on our staff, so don't be, so I know the number is low on the general fund, but there's 10 additional members. And then we have 4 vacancies, and we just went to the Civil Service Commission last Friday
Okay.
to petition to have that position opened as opposed to competitive, which will help a lot with recruitment. So we're feeling confident that
So
we'll
you're,
have additional 4 members
in
this
this
summer.
budget, you have 0 for Public Health Sanitarian 3.
Through the chair, we have 0 on the general fund budget, but we have 4 that are grant funded.
Okay, so you have a grand total of how many health inspectors inspecting stores, including the grant fund?
Yeah, through the chair, it's 15.
15. And they are to inspect the stores on what level of frequency?
Through the chair, it depends on the risk level as assigned by the state, but your classic restaurant would be twice a year plus complaint-based
Okay.
inspections, and your lower risk level, like a convenience store, would be once a year,
Okay.
as per the state.
I would maybe differ with you on risk level with some of those stores, because we refer to them on the east side as the Dr. Seuss stores, the green eggs and ham. And that they have constant complaints of outdated food, dairy product, et cetera. So you're telling us and to the viewing public on those corner-type stores, convenient-type stores, carry-out stores, it's only once a year.
Through the chair, so once a year is a routine inspection, and then complaint-based inspection we can do once a
Okay.
week.
Okay, so anybody watching this from home, if there's a complaint on a corner store in your neighborhood about outdated food materials, products on the shelf, dairy, meat, whatever it may be, I want you to be proactive and turn it into 311.
Please, thank you.
311. Because, right, and get a reference there, because I'm tired of these characters that operate these stores, and none of them live in our neighborhoods. Not a one. And when you look at where they live, Westlake, Lakewood,
Right.
North Olmsted, boom, bada boom, bada boom, okay? And I'm done with them.
Yep.
I'm so done with these guys because they have taken advantage of the food deserts in the city. Their prices are outrageous, and then the quality of items that they provide or sell to our citizens is substandard. And I'm one of those folks that I'm beyond that at this point. You operate in the city of Cleveland, I would think, and I would expect them to operate just as they would if they were in Westlake or North Armstrong or Lakewood or any other places where they live. I would accept them to run the same type of stores, but they don't. So I'm going to leave it at that point. I just want to be assured by the director, Mr. Chairman, that you're telling me with the grant folks and with these, you have sufficient personnel to deal with the complaints that you're receiving.
Through the chair, we have, especially once we fill those vacancies, we will.
Okay.
Yep.
And so
Okay, I
I'm
hear that.
hoping,
Once you fill the vacancy.
I'm hoping you're going to fill those vacancies
Me too.
very quickly. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
You know, I can say this about the director. I've called you about the site on trash and debris. Also, when I see issues and concerns like that. And matter of fact, you come out, if it's not, depends on the time of day that I call you. If I call you early Tuesday morning, you guys are out there. You're out there Tuesday evening or afternoon, or you're out there the next day. So all I have to do is, for a council member, is reach out to the director and just give him a phone call, and he'll send someone out there. Or he might even go out there, council member himself. You know, so that's where you're at.
Yep.
Let's move right along. Councilwoman House Jones.
Thank you. To the chair, to the director, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just wanted to, I guess, put some clarification regarding our, there were a lot of conversation around our unhoused residents, Home for Every Neighbor, North Point. So I guess one of the biggest challenges we have is that the county itself is not funding homeless services. This is fundamentally the problem. They are not putting in enough resources. The county they're supposed to be the creme de la creme.
They are.
And they are not, though. When you look at the budget, and I don't know if you have that, Director, do you know the budget that is used in homeless services from the county?
Through the chair, not off the top of my head, no.
And I think that's the information, and again, not just for the services, but that also would include the capital for, the buildings and things of that nature. And from understanding as far as historically, North Point just kind of fell into the hands of the city.
Right.
Because the county refused to do anything.
Wow.
We need to talk about these things and not saying, and again, it's the same thing when people are saying, well, why won't our unhoused individuals just go to our shelters? Because a lot of them are in deplorable conditions.
Yes, in deplorable
And
conditions.
again, when you look at the funding that goes to it, what the county has done was, we don't want our hands on it, but we're going to give the money, give it to a service provider that owns a building, and another service provider to run and manage the shelters. And it's been really, it's been very challenging for community organizations that step up, that say, okay, I'm going to engage. But the process has been very just challenging, right? It gets to a point where organizations don't even want to manage in this space, literally. For the remaining two organizations that are operating, many of them, they are fit to be tied. They don't get any increases so that we can pay the workforce, family sustaining wages. They don't get the investment to then do the upkeep in our shelters. And we're talking about just such a layered approach, and many people are only looking at it from one perspective. And when you look at the data, which is very hard to find, where people are coming from who are unhoused, what you will find is they're not just people from Cleveland. We're getting people not just in Calgary County, They are coming from other counties. They are coming from out of state. But the reality is Cleveland, the city of Cleveland, has a level of support that you can't find anywhere else in several counties. And this mentality of like, well, Cleveland has to figure, the county absolutely must step up. They must step up. And again, I will, go back and forth, but again, these processes where a lot of people just do what they want to and don't work in real, true partnership. And we have what we have. So again, especially for people that are working in the county, people need to specifically show for real the resources they are allocating to invest in the upkeep and maintenance of places where our unhoused community members are. The county technically is the only entity that has a division of homeless services. The city of Cleveland doesn't have one.
That's true.
So I want to make sure that we are grounded in that reality and ensure that we really think through how we can have a real partnership when we see the county is consistently showing they don't want to be good partners with us for a multitude of things, from the Brown Stadium to our jail operations, and I can go on and on. And this is another one. And yes, I'm going to say it because it needs to be said. And just trying to put all the blame on Cleveland, and it's not right.
So what I'll do, Council Lady, I'll call the meeting after you and I end up meeting, and then I'll bring in the county, and then we'll meet with them one-on-one. Probably in one of our rooms.
Sure, whatever the case may be.
And then I'll call a hearing on it with the county.
Yeah, I hope
we'll
so.
bring them in, and I'll talk when I get home. I'll talk with the wife. She'll bring her county people. She'll probably call you because you guys talk, and then we'll bring this is what happens even when I'm at home. Then we'll bring them in so we can move forward to try to solve this issue. Because I know Councilman Brian Casey and I, we witnessed it, and we didn't like what we witnessed.
Well, but
we'll deal with it.
Well, I hope, again, through Mr. Chairman, I hope that the county, for as much as not as liking, it would be very insightful to look at the investments they are making in homeless services all around, not just for service providers, but for their capital projects, right? What does that look like?
Yeah.
When is the last time and how much are they putting in investments to improve conditions, right? There is work that is going on for the expansion of Norma Hurd. We know that phase 2. I'm not going to even get into how I feel it wasn't the most insightful place, but we are here now. And then LMM, is doing some things. But then we have just a lot of work to go. And so again, as we're looking at this, a Home for Every Neighbor project, I think it's a bit, it's easy for people to say, well, why don't they just go into shelters when they don't? Most people have never even had conversations with many of our unhoused residents. But people just have assumptions. There are a lot of different reasons, and there's a lot of different things going on. And so I would implore us to take some time to actually be engaged, if we want to say, oh, don't do this, and why won't people go live in another place? There's a lot that goes into it, and that's what I will say in that regards. And understanding what is happening at the federal level, we're going to have a lot of challenges in the months and years ahead.
I think, we meet before we head down to D.C., so we have to lobby, or whatever the case may be, that we'll meet before we go. Right after budget hearings, matter of fact, I'll set it up this weekend, and you guys will get emails from us, and, you and I, we talk anyway. This is the beginning of it. And the conversations with Councilmember Brian Casey and I saw need to be had, but we need to meet so we can start moving forward with what we need to do. And that need to be said to the county, because we talk about it, county and city issues and concerns anyway.
And then just the other thing, I was looking at I'll put it up. It's something about our food safety inspections, nuisance complaints. I just get to put on the table of the coordination when it comes to liquor licenses. Some of these places that are getting certified, they are just nasty. They just nasty, and I'm just saying, like, I'm being for real. Like, it's very frustrating when you're trying to put together a comprehensive complaint against operators, store operators, when they're liquor licensed, who are not good community partners. And then when you look at, they continue to get their food safety inspection licenses, there are no dings on them just for the appearance. Like the appearance, I mean, just dusty and dirty and not washed. I mean, like, are there, and then maybe that's the clarification. Is there a standard for like basic hygiene in stores? Because it just, there is a disconnect. And like I said, if I hadn't been in the liquor hearing with me and Mr. Roberts Kevin Roberts, that was trying to, state the case, and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna lose this, because all the attorney did was brought up the fact that the city of Cleveland issued licenses in various different departments at the same time while we're trying to combat their liquor license. That don't make sense. And so there's something that is missing between the law department, these public health. We gotta like strategically figure out the bad actors and how we are going to systematically address it. I mean, and I was going like, and it's just, and it's frustrating, right? It is very, very frustrating when you're living in communities where people are complaining, you verify, you see it, but you realize you really don't have a leg to stand on, because we somehow, somewhere have reissued a license, even though the conditions are not up to what I would say, a basic standard.
You're right.
Basic standard.
The health department, the health director, sorry for pointing at you, sir, they should put a cloud on their license. For example, like you mentioned, they're up for their liquor license. If there's a health issue there, the law department should have something written down, a footnote. Here's our issues and concerns dealing with the health. You see Councilman Mike Pelinci? And so then we can have some supporting evidence to help us out on both, with health as well as with the liquor, and their bad actors to show that. Health director?
So I guess this is the question. So are the hygiene complaints under nuisance complaints?
Director?
Through the chair, it can absolutely be food safety complaint. And so, yeah, absolutely, just reach out to Commissioner of Environment if you're seeing something that doesn't make sense. I get 2 or 3 emails a week of a convenience store that we're closing down due to these issues. And so it's not uncommon, and it's definitely something we take seriously if we're able to do it within the law.
All right. What I'm going to do, Councilmember Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, again on page 207 regarding the other contractual with the home for every neighbor. Cuyahoga County is like that little stepbrother to the city of Cleveland, or that irritating cousin who never comes around, but when they do come around, the only reason they come around is because they want money. And the city of Cleveland does not have a $442 million health and human services levy that we get to allocate. And we know that at least 2 members of county council over there are even afraid to come into the city of Cleveland, right? But I'm going to tell you, if we had a homeless problem in Strongsville, or if we had a homeless problem in Beechwood, that they would be screaming from the rooftops, especially if those individuals who are homeless were Cleveland residents. My question, Mr. Chairman, to the director is, I won't even say that the residents of the city of Cleveland, but people in the city of Cleveland are very lucky that Cleveland City Council and the administration has a heart and provides for the less fortunate. Is there any way, just as our little brothers and sisters over at the county would do for us, is there any way that the city of Cleveland can charge back to the county for services that they're obligated to provide that they don't, that the city provides?
Director?
Through the chair, so they're obviously not an answerable question, but we meet once a week with the County Office of Homeless Services. They do have a wide spectrum of services that they provide, and the direct outreach to housing program for unsheltered residents is not one of the services that they provide. And we heard from a number of stakeholders, including council members, that that was a service that was needed. I think folks found it really hard to see that someone was experiencing, having to sleep overnight in a tent on the street, especially in the winter.
Yes.
And so this body funded.
And there's members of Cuyahoga Council, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that do not care about those people.
Right.
I'm not saying all of them, but there are members of Cuyahoga County Council, because they don't fund a service like a homeless, do I think? I'm not saying all of them, Kevin. I'm not saying, Kevin, they don't fund a homeless program. We have a homeless problem in this county.
We do have a big homeless problem.
Okay? The difference between them and us is that we see a problem, we address it, and we provide the assistance. If they can't see that, that's on them. I'm not saying, Kevin, every member of Cuyahoga County Council is like that, but if the majority of them weren't, they would be funding this. And it wouldn't have to fall on $2 million to the city of Cleveland. Or at least they'd be, at the very minimal, partnering with us.
We're going to talk with
The chairman to the director, does Cuyahoga County partner with the city of Cleveland to provide a home for every neighbor?
Through the chair, yes, they are a partner. So there are a few thousand people experiencing homelessness in the county. And when we say in the county, honestly, it's not Strongsville, right? It's mostly the city. And so they are funding services for 95% of those individuals. This was a gap in their services that the city has stepped up to fill and has been really successful and just a true moment in collaboration between
And
our
then,
two.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, enlighten us on what they provide for the homeless services then.
So they fund rent subsidies, permanent supportive housing. They fund the shelter systems. They fund reentry services. They fund case management, clinical case management. They have a
So what are they doing?
of
What are they
services.
doing to rehouse individuals who are, and because you work closer to them than us. So what are they doing to rehouse individuals?
So there are.
Director?
Through the chair, so there are dozens of permanent supportive housing that they've funded, that they've built, and so that's, you think about like Emerald Commons, think about Foster Point and Ward 14, Harper Point, Harper Foster, right? So that they're facilities all over the city that they fund. Obviously, 2100, 2200, Lakeside, Norma Herr, they're helping to fund that, as are we. And so there's
All right, then,
millions of dollars that
Mr.
they're
Chairman, to
putting
the
into it.
director, since they do all that, right, and you just admitted that you do all that, why do we need to put $2 million into it?
Yeah, through the chair, as I said, this is a gap in the services that they provide.
Well, it doesn't sound like it's a gap with everything you just mentioned. So to me, when reconciliation, this looks like something that from your lips
No.
came from as much as they do, they fund all that other stuff. We don't need to pick this up because there's enough that the county does already.
Through the chair, if those words came out of my mouth, those words did not come out of my mouth. This is a service that they do not fund. You asked me to list the other things that they fund. I listed those. This is the direct outreach to housing program that we developed together. And I'm sad that more of my council members who helped develop this program aren't at the table right now so I shouldn't have to defend this alone, because this is a program that
you see it in front.
we
You see it in
developed
front,
it.
and
We
you
developed
see
this
the
together. This
evidence.
was council and administration together. This is really a program that we're showing other cities what's possible. We're reaching out to people who are living on the street. Many people, as we were starting this program, said they don't want to be housed, just like Councilwoman House Jones. They said they don't want to be housed, and we knew that wasn't true, and we pushed forward, and this program has showed that within a few days of engaging people on the street, building those relationships, we're able to get them apartments and case management. They're getting on their feet. They're either getting a job, they're applying for disability so that they
I
won't.
heard about all of that.
All right, Mr. Chairman, to the director, of this 1.93 million,
Yes.
how much of that is going toward paying somebody's rent?
Through the chair, I can get you those exact numbers. Yeah.
Can you do that soon? Mr.
Yeah,
CFO, do you know that?
When,
Through the chair to the council member, I don't know that off the top of my head.
but the director can get it
Yeah.
for you, and then before we meet, because you're going to be in there, you were out there with me in November, and so you'll have supporting evidence what he's talking about.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, to the director, since we have money to pay for people who are unhoused, their rent, right? What is it that how much rent do we provide to somebody we're using their house or whatever? What is that breakdown in rent that we pay?
So we're paying 100% subsidy for rent.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, to the director, what's the most expensive subsidy that we pay per month?
Through the chair, I don't know, but
How do you not know?
You don't walk around with it all the time.
through the chair. So
Have we ever paid $2,000 a month for rent for somebody?
through the chair, I don't think so, but this department this has been run in a few different departments. It's all coming to public health. As I said, we are not spending any of the money you allocate in this budget until you give us legislation to spend it. And so that was the time we were going to be
You're going to bring it to us,
prepared
right?
to bring it to you.
And then,
So
Mr. Chairman, to the director, this $1,900 for this, how many people will that unhouse?
80 to 100 people.
80 to 100 people, so I'll
That's
figure
good.
the math out
That's
then
good,
myself.
Right,
And
and
how
it's-
long do we pay for that?
12 months. Through the chair, 12 months. And so it's case management and the rental subsidy.
So do we pay for the, Mr. Chairman, to the director, do we pay for the case management too?
Through the chair, yes.
And are those county workers? Or are they private entities?
No, through the chair, it's a number of nonprofit agencies. And for this coming year's spend, we would not spend any of that money on any agency without your legislation to
You know what,
to
Director,
spend it.
give all of that, your supporting evidence to council member. He'll be with us.
Okay.
And I'm not beating up on you, council member. I just don't want
Even if you thought you could, you wouldn't.
Even, I don't want assumptions to be
Sure,
out here.
yeah.
People need supporting evidence.
Right.
That's why I can't say that people don't care unless.
So
I have
if we did
supporting
100
evidence.
people, Mr. Chairman, to the director, if we did 100 people for a year, for a month, if we just did the rent, right? That would be about $1,600 a month in rent that we're paying per person if we had 100 people.
Through the chair, our average rent is lower than that.
I'm just, well, you didn't know, so
Well, that's-
I just figured it out real quick. If we did 100 people and did it for 1 year straight, we would average about $1,600 a month in a rent subsidy. Now, I know
Case
paying,
management.
right, I know that the case management has to come out of that, but
Outreach.
if you could please
workers,
provide us,
acquisition, yep.
All right, we got 1 minute left.
if you could please provide us what we've already spent on this and how much we've spent, including rental, what we're paying in rent, and what we anticipate paying going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No more questions on that?
Oh, no, I would just, can I do the thing? Again, home
30
for every
seconds.
neighbor, I just will say, it is again, when he talks about, the director was talking about a gap in service, we need to take a step back. Part of the issue, what had transpired is policies that happen, right? We had a lot of people who are transitioning and living on streets. We had the Irish Town Bend Project. where
Yes.
that cleared out a whole thing, and everybody started moving on Payne and Superior. Then we had a jet policy with the with Hopkins Airport, and like no one was going to these places. You know what I'm saying? And like again, where it's one of those things where we either pay now or pay later, right? And we know that it is not. And again, hopefully people will be in alignment of supporting Tanisha's law as we work to get it through. But law enforcement is not a appropriate use of our tax dollars for some of these nuanced things. And it takes more than when you look at the time that, and I'm saying in the law enforcement space, it takes more than 45 minutes to address these cases, right? Who gonna do it? If we are not, and again, working in partners to build up partners to really think through people and our citizens who are in real crisis. And when you are just being unhoused in and of itself, your health is going to decline. Your mental, emotional, it is wrecked. And some of the unhoused individuals, you're talking about people who have been living outside in the street for years.
Right.
That takes time. And it takes investment. And again, this whole thinking of when people don't have the capacity to do it, government is there ideally to try to help fill in the gap.
Yeah, I understand
right?
that.
And that's where we have to go to look at it. It's not a one-to-one type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Council Lady, I understand your passion. We're going to have to move on. The director is going to give us, as well to Councilmember Brian Casey, supporting evidence as well as the proposal. And then when we meet offline to discuss it, and I'm not saying here that county council don't care. They do care. They do care. And so when you get the supporting evidence, then we'll sit down. And then we gotta read what you just narrated, Council Lady House, so that when we meet, we come together and focus on the issue of homelessness, including the airport director, and then we'll move forward with it. But let's not beat up on people, because I don't want them to come and then they're upset and they're calling me and no, I don't want all that stuff. The focus must be on the issue and the issue and the concern is homelessness.
Yeah,
That's
and I
the
think
issue and the concern.
what you find
And
is
that's
the frustration is coming, I believe, is just many of the recent actions from our county where it's just like there is an attack against Cleveland that is being directed from the county.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. So again, hopefully we could facilitate some real conversations. As we're talking about unhoused, we're talking about our jail, we're talking about the Brown Stadium, where you have people in the county
But
who
you
are
know what?
leading,
You
who
know
are
what?
conspiring against us
Council
to
Lady,
Cleveland's
Council Lady,
demise.
when we meet, I don't want to get
And they are elected.
Now I don't want to get into the jail. I know Councilmember Starr and I went down there to deal with that. I want to focus on the issue that we're talking about now in this budget, in the 1.9 million or whatever the case may be on homelessness. That's what we're passionate about. We might deal with the stadium stuff later, but I want to deal with the homelessness, Director, what we're discussing right here. Council Lady.
I get it.
There's no more questions on the environment. Council Lady.
Okay, my question is something relative to what you guys are focused on this particular housing situation. But Chair, this housing situation that you guys got to speaking on, we have homeless everywhere that those other homeless people are not able to, probably wasn't chosen to be put into this environment. So this part of this money, is this for all the homeless people, Cuyahoga City, Cuyahoga wide, or just in a specific area of this budget that you guys are just brought to our attention?
Through the chair.
Through the chair, it's so it's the Home for Every Neighbor program. So it's the most vulnerable folks that are top priority are folks who are the most exposed to weather events, maybe vulnerable for other reasons as well. And so that's been the focus of the program. And we've sent the data and those reports to all the council members showing the breakdown by neighborhood. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, Director, because could I have that data be resent to me so I can see if any of the homeless came out of Ward 4 area to see how, I just need to be caught up on this data and this neighbor-to-neighbor program, to see how it's actually operating per se. Could I have that
Director?
resent over to me so I can go over everything
Through
to
the
be
chair,
caught up to date?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It sounds like we need to do a little bit more in talking through the
All right,
program with this
Yeah,
team.
and
So-
only saying that, Chair, because Chair, to the Director, as we all know, we have so many other type of facilities out here throughout Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, dealing with like group homes or the unseasonal shelter homes and other places that homeless people are sheltered per se. But this particular program is just designated for, you said, the most
many
high
need a
risk,
button,
when I
yeah.
think they all high risk, but there are particular ones that are chosen for this one to be, to have their own long-term housing apartment, correct?
Right, I agree. So what we'll do, we will meet on it, and then we'll meet with county council. I don't want to start a back and forth with them, Director. We got to work on the issue, and I believe that all of county council, they're concerned about it and what you just narrated, and they're good people, and they're concerned about this right here. And I don't want to have a back and forth piece. We want to sit down and deal with this homeless issue.
Through the chair, they fund 95% of the services. This is just a kind of 5% sliver that the city's
so we'll work
stepped
with
up
it,
in.
and
Yeah.
they're dealing with the homeless piece.
Oh,
We
yeah.
got that.
Through the chair, yes.
If there's no more on the environment, Division of Environment.
okay.
Let's move forward with Department of Administration. I'm going back to
Division of Public Health Administration, page 197. Director David Margolius. Page 198, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $1,321,556. 2025 budgeted, $1,533,779. Page 199, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $2,312,077. 2025 budgeted, $2,696,740. Page 200, number of employees December 2024, 17, budgeted 2025, 18. Chairman.
Director, I remember when some years ago, and I'm going to be blunt, a lot of the African Americans we were pushing the health is a public, we're pushing that issue about health related, and the council president with DEI and all of that, and they got rid of a lot of the African American workers. I was not happy. So what is the makeup of your staff with women as well as with African Americans and brown people of color and the whole 9 yards? Because they were pushed out, and I was not a happy camper. So you recruited people in, you have them in leadership positions, you're cultivating them in administration, or what?
So, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Before we get started, I do have green sheets for this section, so just wanted to point
they
those
passed
out.
them out. Or do you have them, or did she pass them out?
She did, yes.
have
Minor
some,
dollar amounts. So we had for clothing allowance in
Now, let me
2025.
finish asking this question here.
Okay.
This question meant a lot to me. Yeah.
Through the chair, yes. So there was a very high-profile June 2020 coverage on the internal complaints happening in the health department around racism.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I know, I don't know if they're the
didn't know.
formulaic
You didn't know.
procedural
You
thing, we
just
got to
got
make
it.
sure we get that in there. But no, I mean, you know, I'm really proud of the diversity of the department. I mean, you know them, you
Yeah, I
see
know.
them,
I
they're
came
at the
around with you
table.
guys. I was at the table. I went
and
over there to
so-
visit you.
Yeah, through the chair, especially for me coming from healthcare, where there's not a lot of racial diversity, especially in leadership and in the physician workforce. And so the health department has been a breath of fresh air. It's an incredible place. There's a lot of, it is just an incredible group of people. Diversity is our superpower, as Commissioner Wills always tells me, and
That's true.
has trained me on. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so really, really proud of this group.
And the numbers are going up. You're cultivating, you know. And I'm sorry when I got, because people, you didn't see what was going on until the director took over.
Yeah, to the chair, I understand your passion.
All right. Sir, you were narrating something. We're listening now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Through the chair to the committee, so we caught a small dollar error in the, on page 198 with clothing allowance and clothing maintenance. We had actual small negative values in there, negative 130 and 150 respectively. Those should have been zeroed out, so that kind of filters down. So the total dollar amount, the total dollar effect is $280. So it's a small amount, but we wanted to make sure it was accurate.
Thank you very, very much. On page 198, full-time permanent, you went from 1,294,000 to 1,517,000. Which people receive raises, or what happened there?
Through the chair, one is adding one headcount, which is a person who is already on staff in our department but funded through a different department. And so she's, the hope is she'll be completely on board with our team. And she's the person who helps to support our electronic medical records, so a really important position. And filling some of those vacancies that we've filled, and some internal promotions along with that, but mostly just filling those vacancies is why we're less than what our budget is for this coming year.
Okay. I was wondering, vacation, no one is taking vacation. What's that vacation, conversion? You have here going down on page 198, the fourth line.
Yeah, through the chair, that's the opportunity to turn some of your vacation hours into money that comes, I believe, every spring, which is a nice opportunity for folks.
Yeah, that's a good opportunity.
Although we encourage folks as well through the chair to take vacation.
Yeah, that's important. Your bonus incentive overtime, you went from 358 to 7,500. Is there overtime more than that?
Through the chair, the 7,500 would just be the budgeted amount, but we always strive to come in under that budget,
That's good. You're controlling costs.
as you see with last year's unaudited numbers.
So tuition and registration still on page 198. 14,000. You guys. So tuition and registration. What kind of certifications are you going for?
Through the chair, we have a number of different certifications from the group, anything from different fiscal training opportunities and certifications to our HR team, to the leadership team. And again, we always try and come in under budget. We get different grants that help to support public health tuition and trainings. And so when possible, we'll use those grants and come in under budget and give some money back to you.
So with the grants, here's something interesting, and I'll see who have some questions to ask. So let's say you have a grant for $250,000. Your control cost, you have $20,000 still on the books. Did the money go back to the funders, or you use it for the next cycle?
Through the chair, if we have a grant, we don't spend the money, it goes back to the funders, or it gets carried over to the next year, depending on the grant. But we take a lot of pride in how we spend our grants, and so we spend them.
Yeah, spend that money, spend the money, that's important. Any other questions on the health administration? All right, no other ones, so let's move forward. Let's move forward to the health and equity and social justice.
Page 214, Health, Equity, and Social Justice, Commissioner Lita Wills. Page 215, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $650,656. 2025 budgeted, $742,568. Page 216, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $1,212,510. 2025 budgeted, $1,925,328. Page 217, number of employees December 2024, 9. Budgeted 2025, 9. Chairman?
That's good right there. Director, how's the Mothers and Fathers program? That's my baby right there. How's that program moving forward? The goals of that program, are we meeting them as well as the objectives?
Through the chair, yes, absolutely. And that is funded, you'll see that under other contractual. There's $100,000 from other contractual. It's also funded through our grant from the federal government, which is under contract for 5-year contract.
Good.
So, fingers crossed.
You on this your 5th year or?
Starting a 5-year cycle, so if you get my drift.
Yeah, I got you. That's a good piece.
Yep.
On page 215, when we went up, now my glasses on. Professional services up to $230,000 from $100,000 to $230,000.
Through the chair, it's similar to what we've been budgeted at for previous years. We just underspent on that, but that is certified through legislation for the RAFC, the Racism as a Public Health Coalition.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the outcome measures on that later. I don't want to discuss it right now. All right, Donnie. Any other questions on the equity and social justice? Do you have any questions on the Council President? All right, let's move forward. Division of Health.
Page 201, Division of Health, Commissioner Francis Mills. Page 202, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $1,629,190. 2025 budgeted, $2,048,253. Page 204, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $3,440,581. 2025 budgeted, $6,105,122. Page 205, number of employees December 2024, 28. Budgeted 2025, 32. Chairman.
On page number 204, charges from telephone exchange, it's a huge spike from 153,000 to 600,000.
Through the chair, if you look back over the last few years, we've spent that at different times. Again, it's always something we try to come in under budget to support your work.
That's a huge spike. So what triggered this spike like that? What would you think to the controller?
To the chair, it's the offset for the telephone exchange internal service fund. So you'll see all the divisions support that budget, and it's about break even. If you look back to like 2022, you'll see 462,000. They just had a good year last year with the chargebacks from telephone exchange. They came in much lower. We're not expecting that same amount this year. We're expecting a much higher amount for telephone exchange.
Is there a way to control that cost? Is there any kind of way to control it? I mean, it's a huge spike.
Yeah, to the chair, yeah, we take a look. We do take a look at telephone exchange and try to control costs, but it's all the phone bills for the city, cell phone bills, desk phones. The linemen work for telephone exchange that pull the wires, whether they're computer wires, whether they're phone wires.
Okay.
So we do look at trying to do that, but some of these costs, like if they're coming from the phone company or different areas, it's a little bit out of our control. Some of the costs.
Yeah, that's 600,000 because if we don't control costs, maybe next year it might cost more. You think? Because you need to try to get it to at least go down to 2022.
Yeah, through the chair, we don't anticipate escalation of costs unless there's something that happens with the telephone companies or something like that. This is, this is pretty high. We don't really anticipate this to grow much more in the future, except for maybe inflation, unless we have some real oddity with the phone companies.
Yeah, keep an eye on it for me. Just flag it.
Yep, we monitor this.
I want to go back to your grants on page 203, for $307,000. I like this. The grants, you went up from $38,000 to $307,000, Director.
Through the chair, so the biggest cost there is healthcare center maintenance, and this is, I think, pretty close to what our budgeted amount was for last year, but again, something that we're trying to keep down. This year, though, we do anticipate the move out of the McCafferty Health Center, which would come out of that line item, and so, and then in future years, when we're coming to you soon for rent for the new health center, and so that would come out of the anticipation is that would come out of this line item as well.
Okay, I see the funding in line. Okay, because you talked with me about that.
Right, and through the chair, the other things in there are like elevator contracts, biohazard disposal, maintenance contracts, exterminating services, sewer drain cleaning, things that have to do with the health centers. And again, a lot of those costs would go away once we move one of our health centers into the new space in the Clark Fulton neighborhood in Ward 14.
And you know what, to the controller, when you look at your funding, because you do a lot of fund transfers, almost every one of your fundings, I'm looking at accounting in my mind with your fundings.
Yeah.
It's like debits and credits, and you do your fund transfers. They have a life of its own. When we see these numbers here, your accounting.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
It's an interesting thing. It's like you show it to us. It's here. You see the number 307,000, but
There's a lot that goes into that.
yeah, accounting. The accounting part. And it's just interesting. On page 202, for full-time permanent, your numbers, you went up from $150, $1.5 million to almost $2 million.
Through the chair, thank you. Yes, if you look at our current headcount is around 28 individuals, and we're budgeted for 32, and so that would be the bulk of that difference between the what we spent last year compared to what we're budgeted for salary-wise. And those vacancies, through the chair, are 2 public health nurses, 2 public health nurses, vital statistics specialist.
They're full-time?
Right. Yeah.
Someone stopped me about this a year ago, and I called you. Remember, it was on the streets. The lady stopped me,
sure, yeah.
and I called you about it. She was all in my ear.
Oh, yeah.
But you said you were going to do this, and you did what you said. And
Thank you.
I forgot the lady name. Any questions on the Division of Health? Good. The last one, Division of Air Quality.
Page 210, Division of Air Quality, Commissioner David Hearn. Page 211, 2024 unaudited salaries and wages, $454,287. 2025 budgeted, $594,033. Page 212, 2024 unaudited total expenditures, $1,028,909. 2025 budgeted, $1,400,911. Page 213, number of employees December 2024, 7, budgeted 2025, 9. Chairman.
Director, I don't have any findings on this or any complaints. This air quality with the federal government, is that a risk to this that you can see, or a threat?
Through the chair, yeah, I think every time the government has shut down with the Congress, that's been scary for us. And so this is obviously a new ball game, but many of us have our eye to March 14th and how that would affect us in addition to everything else that they're doing when the current government funding comes to an end. So that's concerning. And then on another note, this is beyond the budget, but the US EPA is potentially being dismantled, and so that makes our local air quality ordinance all the more important, and so that's something that we're coming to this body with in the coming weeks to discuss. Updates to the air code to prevent backsliding, to keep the momentum going to reduce our air pollution.
Yeah, put that on your schedule to talk with me about it when we sit down and we discuss. Let me know. You know what? Email me the information ahead of time with the EPA. In fact, it's on my mind. I have a great concern about it. You know, we just had a hearing on it, on air quality, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we did.
And this right here concerns me a great deal.
Yep.
You know, when people with asthma and all of that, and you know, we have to protect the residents in the city of Cleveland.
Right.
You know, so I have a great concern with that. Any questions about air quality? You look at the So with that, no further questions. The Health Committee. No. You was about to use that. With that, it's closed. Thank you very much.